When Leylani returned to her room, she could still hear Lorraine's howl. After a while, she rushed into the toilet and finished her business. Just as she came out of the toilet with a relaxed look, she could not help but return with a painful look on her face. She had went to the toilet back and forth many times, and the matter of playing cards and gambling money was delayed. Lorraine's face was pale, and her legs were weak. It was a problem for her to walk. Yulia stood by the window and counted silently. After counting the number of times in her heart, she was shocked. "Miss Leylani, what's wrong with Lorraine? Why did she have a stomach ache more than 30 times in 2 hours? Even if she had been drugged, it would not be so terrible, right?" Leylani smiled and said, "Of course it's not enough. I added a strong licorice in the laxative. Today she has to die in the pit." Yulia exclaimed, "Miss Leylani, you're amazing. Lorraine had been bullying us for so long. It's time for her to suffer." "It's just the beginning now. There will be a lot of suffering for her in the future," said Leylani. As soon as she finished speaking, the voice of Lorraine's subordinate, Winda, sounded in the yard. "Leylani, you little butch, come out here. Ever since Lorraine ate your chicken leg, she's been going to the toilet non-stop. Did you do something to the chicken leg? You're courting death. How dare you torture Lorraine?" Leylani pushed open the window and said, "She stole the chicken leg and she deserved it. What does it have to do with me? Besides, even if I really want to teach her a lesson, it is natural. She is a slave and I am her master. She should listen to my orders." "How dare you? People like you are not qualified to be the master. Lorraine is the master of this courtyard," Winda said angrily. Leylani gave a cold smile. "Do you listen to her? But have you ever thought that both you and Lorraine are servants of the general's mansion? But why would Lorraine keep my monthly allowance and my mother's money for herself, but you get nothing? For example, the chicken leg just now was solely eaten by Lorraine. Where are your shares? Your statuses are the same, but you have to swallow your pride. Are you really willing?" Winda's heart wavered for a moment, but when she thought of what Lorraine had done, she immediately came back to her senses. "Don't even think about trying to sow discord between us. To us, Lorraine is like our eldest sister. It's only right and proper for us to serve her." Leylani smiled. "It's only right and proper, but look at the general's mansion. My blood siblings and I are still at odds with each other. How can you, who are sworn sisters, be more affectionate than us? She only treats you as a fool, but you are treating her as your elder sister. You're not young, are you? You never thought of saving yourself with some money, leaving this life, and then go back to build your own house in the countryside, growing your own land, and enjoying your old age?" Winda's weakness had been poked, and the hesitation in her eyes became more and more obvious. Lorraine had noticed it too, but she was too weak to speak, but she still said, "Don't listen to her nonsense. Her monthly salary in the general's mansion is much better than at home." Leylani replied, "But how much is your monthly salary? My monthly allowance and the money my mother left are not small sum. Now that Lorraine has no strength, why don't you fill your pockets with money? Wouldn't that be faster than the salary from the general's mansion?" Winda was completely convinced and ran towards Lorraine's room. "Stop right there." Lorraine could not move, and she kept shouting at Winda. Thinking that the money that she had accumulated for a long time was going to be robbed like this, she sternly ordered the rest of her subordinates sternly, "Go and stop her. I will reward anyone who stops her." Money could make a person become insane. The crowd immediately rushed up, and in an instant, a group of people made a scene. Leylani smiled and returned to the room with Yulia. In the middle of the night, the chaos from Lorraine's group had stopped. Yulia heard someone knocking on the door. "Miss Leylani, I'm Rachel. I have something to say." "Come in," Leylani said. Rachel pushed the door open and came in. She took out the things hidden in her arms and said, "Miss Leylani, these are the jewelry that was stolen from Madame Giselle when she was still alive. I thought that you might keep them, so I took them back to you." She was sincere, but Leylani just smiled disapprovingly. "I have been in the courtyard for so many years, and you have plenty of opportunities to steal things from me. But it was not until today that I caused a war that you took out these things. Tell me, what can I do for you?" "To tell you the truth, in fact, I didn't steal these things. Madame Giselle entrusted them to me when she was alive. She asked me to give them to you when you grew up, Rachel said. Oh, said Leylani in surprise. If that's the case, why are you giving it to me now? Rachel said, in the past, you were gentle and would always be suppressed and beaten by Lorraine. I was worried that the jewelry would be taken away by Lorraine in the end. Therefore, I did not take them out. Now that Miss Leylani has grown a lot, I think you can protect them yourself. I'm relieved to give them to you. The corners of Leylani's lips curled into a smile. Giving me these things are secondary. With these things, do you still have anything to say? Rachel did not try to hide anything and said, I've been bullied by Lorraine's group in the courtyard. I can't bear it. I want to seek refuge with Miss Leylani. I know that my status is low and there isn't much that I can do, but as long as you are willing to accept me, as long as it is your order in the future, I will absolutely obey them. I will never have any malicious thoughts about you. Rachel's voice was firm and her eyes were clear. She did not seem to be lying at all. Leylani looked at her. After a long while, she said, Okay, I'll trust you for the time being. If you dare to betray me in the future, I won't let you go easily. Rachel bowed. If I betray you, may the heavens punish me severely. Leylani smiled with satisfaction and said, You can leave now. I will tell you what you can do for me later. Rachel agreed and left. When the door was closed, Yulia asked Leylani in confusion, Miss Leylani, you have always been very kind to Rachel. Why is it that when Rachel wants to rely on us, you make things difficult for her? I'm not making things difficult for her. It's a test. Those who usually look good may become bad people at critical moments. My life in the Millington family can be said to be dangerous and risky. I can't give my life to a person who is not loyal. Yulia did not expect Miss Leylani to be so thoughtful. She could not help but sigh. Miss Leylani, you've really changed a lot. Leylani smiled and said nothing. Lorraine had been purging for 3 days, and Leylani had been able to rest for 3 days. She was able to focus on developing medicinal herbs at home to consolidate her medical skills. After 3 days of study, she was more or less a little tired. Taking advantage of the cool autumn, she took Yulia out for a walk. When they arrived at the rockery in the garden, she heard Amber's voice from a distance. I haven't seen that bitch for a few days. I think she must be afraid, so she hid in the courtyard and did not go out. Humph, I thought she had improved, but in the end, she was still a good-for-nothing. Nicole, since we have nothing to do today, why don't we go and play with this good-for-nothing? Amber, don't say that. Although Leylani is lacking in all aspects, she is still our eldest sister. We still have to respect her. Nicole's voice sounded. The corners of her Leylani's curled into a disdainful smile. Nicole's hatred for her was no less than that of Amber. The reason why she said such words was probably because there were other people around her. Sure enough, when they turned a corner and faced Leylani, she found that in addition to Nicole and Amber, the daughter of the third wife, Bianca, was also there. However, Bianca was gentle and was never involved in sisterly slanders, therefore she never spoke. Amber was the first to discover Leylani. She immediately sneered. Little trash, do you really have the guts to come out? Perfect. I've recently been preparing new medicine and I'm in need of someone to test it out. Come over and let me practice. Leylani used to be Amber's test subject. Thanks to Amber's young age, the poison she developed was not enough to kill people. That was why Leylani could live to this day. Due to the presence of outsiders, Nicole could only pretend to be sensible and reasonable. She stopped Amber and said, Amber, don't be so presumptuous to Leylani. Hurry up and apologize to her. As she spoke, she glanced at Leylani first, but was shocked by her dress today. Leylani was not wearing her usual rough clothes and linen today. Instead, she was dressed in a long dress. Her black hair hung behind her head, making her look like an otherworldly fairy. The color of Leylani's dress was almost the same as the pink color of Nicole's clothes. At first glance, it was as if they were made by the same piece of clothing. A look of dissatisfaction appeared in Nicole's eyes. Fortunately, her clothes were more delicate and gorgeous and looked newer. No matter how she looked at it, her clothes were better than Leylani's. Leylani realized that she was secretly comparing herself with her, She secretly looked at Nicole with a disdainful smile. The model daughter, Nicole? Heh, there's nothing special about it. Nicole. Amber, who had been scolded by her sister, took Nicole's arm and acted like a spoiled child. You are kind-hearted, so you naturally don't want to argue with her. But in my heart, I feel unfair for you. The most excellent daughter of the Millington family is you. If someone were to marry a talented man like the Crown Prince, it should be you. How can it be Leylani, that good-for-nothing, to marry him? She is useless and does not even deserve to carry shoes for you. As she spoke, Amber glared at Leylani angrily, and her voice grew louder. Besides, you're the one that His Highness likes. Leylani is really good at becoming a meddler. Nicole felt very happy in her heart, but she still had to teach Amber a lesson on the surface. Don't talk nonsense. His Highness and I are just ordinary friends. How can we have a romantic relationship? With this, she smiled at Leylani and said, Leylani, don't listen to Amber's nonsense. Everyone in the city knows that you are engaged to the Crown Prince. Although you have shortcomings, there is no perfect person in the world. Your Highness will not mind. It sounded as if she was comforting Leylani, but in fact, there were knives in her words. It was a pity that the old Leylani did not understand, and she really thought that Nicole was a good person. She wanted to tell Nicole whatever kind of suffering she had suffered. It wasn't until Nicole revealed her true colors that she realized that she had always trusted the wrong person. At this moment, Leylani scoffed at Nicole's hypocritical appearance. That's right. No one is perfect. I wonder when your Highness will be able to see through the true colors hidden beneath your fake face. Before Nicole could open her mouth, Amber became anxious. What do you mean? Nicole's character is the same as her appearance. When did she put on an act? Don't slander her. She knows better whether she is putting on an act or not, Leylani said. Amber was exasperated. You're so arrogant. Nicole is kind and won't fight with you, but I'll teach you a lesson today. Amber, don't make a fuss. Nicole grabbed her and forced a smile at her. Leylani has suffered a lot recently and has been holding back her anger. It's normal for her to vent her anger. I'm fine with it as long as she's happy. Leylani sneered. Her words sounded pleasing, but she might have scolded her in her heart. Leylani, we want to visit Grandma. Since we've run into each other, why don't you come with us? Nicole said as she walked up to her and held on to Leylani's arm. Leylani moved back and said, okay. She wanted to see what Nicole was up to. The few of them walked towards Madame Millington's residence together. Leylani intentionally walked slowly and walked behind Nicole. She must not walk to the front. Who knew what hidden tricks Nicole was hiding? Her guard was indeed effective. At this moment, Nicole was hiding a silver needle in her hand. Originally, she wanted to stab Leylani's acupoint and let her catch a cold. She was afraid of the cold, but unexpectedly, Leylani dodged it. Heh, coward. Nicole was even more certain that Leylani, who was being so arrogant, was just a bluff. As long as she did it herself, Leylani might not be able to withstand it. With a sense of superiority in her heart, Nicole carefully took back the silver needles. Amber followed behind Leylani. Seeing her back facing her, she came up with an idea. She took a few steps forward and intended to push Leylani. At this time, the lotus pond was in front of Leylani. As long as she pushed her into the water, the good-for-nothing, who could not swim, would definitely suffer a lot. However, just as she was about to push her, Leylani suddenly moved to the left and squatted down to pick up the leaves on the ground. Amber did not have time to change her movement. She fiercely pushed Nicole, who was walking in front of Leylani, into the pool. Help! Who can save me? I can't swim! Ah! A sudden disaster made Nicole completely panic. She struggled to ask for help, however, she was getting deeper and deeper. Amber panicked and shouted for help. However, it was a remote place, and they were surrounded by maids. None of them knew how to swim, therefore no one dared to go down. Because Nicole was pushed in the water, the hidden silver needles accidentally pierced her acupoint. Now she was almost as cold as ice in the water. Seeing that she might die there, she could no longer put on an act and shouted, "What are you waiting for? Go and get someone to save me!" A smart maidservant came back to her senses and hurriedly called the guards in the mansion. Unexpectedly, as soon as she ran out, she met the young male servants in the mansion. Anyway, they were all men who knew how to swim. The maid was in a hurry to save Nicole, therefore she directly called the young male servants over. The leading manservant was tall and mighty. As soon as he saw Nicole fall into the water, he plunged straight into the pool. At this moment, Nicole's thin shirt was completely soaked in water. Her skin was exposed and the entire scene was too alluring. There was a flash of lust in the servant's eyes. His hand, which was trying to save Nicole, began to move restlessly in front of her chest. In the end, he held onto her two plump breasts tightly. This was not enough. He did not let go of his hand and brought Nicole back to swim in this manner. He even rubbed his hands on her chest a couple of times along the way. Under the waves, his movements were very subtle, but Leylani could clearly see everything. However, she did not stop him. Getting a man to frame her, Nicole had gone too far in the matter of taking away her innocence. Why should she save her? Their destiny was changed. It was Nicole's retribution to have such a manservant. The servant did it on purpose. He swam slowly in the water with the excuse of saving her. Nicole could feel the arrogance of the manservant under the water, but she did not have much strength left and could not resist at all. She could only swallow her anger. In the end, because she was exhausted, she fainted before she could reach the shore. Finally, the manservant brought Nicole to the shore. The rest of the servants hurriedly pulled her up. After leaving the water, these men saw that the noble Miss Nicole was now like a courtesan in a brothel. Their eyes shone, and they could not turn their eyes away from Nicole. Watching from the side, Leylani felt that it was a pity that Nicole had fainted so early. It was a pity that she could not experience the taste of animals. "Nicole, Nicole." At this time, the anxious voice of Patricia came from not far away. She had been listening to music in the courtyard. When she heard a maid report that the daughter of the Millington family had fallen into the water, she thought that it was Leylani. She wanted to say that she wanted to watch the fun, but she did not expect that the one who had fallen into the water was her precious daughter. She ran over, chased the servant away, and ordered the maid, "Go and get my medical box." Patricia was proficient in traditional Chinese medicine, therefore they did not need a doctor. Most of the time, she treated her children by herself. Soon, the medicine box came over. She took out a silver needle and pricked the acupuncture point, but it was useless. Beside her, Leylani could not help but sneer. She had drowned and they still used acupuncture to treat her. An ancient person who did not know how to save people was really pathetic. Seeing that Patricia was about to cry, Leylani stepped forward and pulled Patricia aside. "A drowning person can't be saved like this. Disperse the crowd and leave room for her to breathe." Patricia looked at her in disbelief. "Do you know how to save people? If anything happens to Nicole, I'll kill you." Leylani was speechless. She was kind enough to save Nicole's life, but she was questioned like this? "Well, since Madame Patricia doesn't trust me, I won't save her. Anyway, it's not my daughter who died." After saying that, she was about to leave. Patricia's heart trembled. Thinking of the useless silver needles, she stepped back and said, "All right, you allowed you to save Nicole, but if you can't save her, I would make you die with her." Leylani smiled disdainfully. "Make her die with her? It was still early. Madame Patricia has given her orders. Why aren't you all dispersing?" Leylani turned around and looked at the people around her. Only then did everyone spontaneously disperse. Leylani squatted down and first cleaned up the mud and weeds, which had covered Nicole's eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. Then she pressed one hand on Nicole's forehead and raised her chin with the other hand to open her mouth. After doing all this, she pinched Nicole's nose with her index finger and thumb, then took a deep breath, put her mouth against Nicole's and slowly blew into her mouth. After several attempts, she pressed her heart regularly. The crowd was stunned when they saw it. Especially Patricia. She was so angry that she was about to jump up. "What kind of method is this? Are you saving her or kissing her?" The methods of modern people did not make sense to the ancient people. Therefore, she ignored her and continued to save her. Standing beside her, Amber felt that the more she looked at Leylani, the more unreliable it became. Therefore, she could not bear it anymore and rushed up to push Leylani away. "I have finally seen it clearly. You are deliberately plotting against Nicole. If it weren't for you, she would not have fallen into the water. You are not allowed to save her. Nicole is going to be killed by you." Hearing this, Yulia rushed forward to protect her master. "Miss Amber, please speak from your conscience. There are so many eyes watching you. It was you who pushed Miss Nicole into the pond just now. It has nothing to do with Miss Leylani. Now Miss Nicole's life is hanging by a thread. The person who saved her is Miss Leylani. It's okay if you don't want to thank her. How can you attack her back?" Only then did Patricia know the reason. She glared at Amber and said, "You good-for-nothing thing. Get out of the way. If Leylani's rescue attempt is too delayed and Nicole dies, I will never let you go." It sounded like she was backing Leylani up, but she knew that Patricia was just warning her that if Nicole really died here, it would be caused by her in time period to rescue her. It had nothing to do with Amber. Heh, what a vicious woman. Leylani sneered in her heart, but the first aid in her hand did not stop. Even so, there were many voices of doubt around her. Will Miss Leylani be able to save Miss Nicole? Of course not. Madame Patricia is extremely excellent in medicine, but she can't do anything about it. Miss Leylani is just a good-for-nothing. What can she do? Fortunately, Madame Patricia had asked someone to invite a doctor. I don't know if Miss Nicole can hold on until the doctor comes. Miss Leylani, you don't have much ability, but you still have to pretend to be strong. If something really happens to Miss Nicole, Madame Patricia will not spare you, and the general will definitely make you pay with your life. Everyone was talking in a row, and their eyes were with the intention of watching a show. Although Leylani was overconfident, she was simply courting death. Just as everyone was waiting to see Leylani make a fool of herself, Nicole, who was lying on the ground, finally moved. She coughed in pain. Then her face turned pale and she started coughing aggressively. As soon as she coughed, Leylani quickly patted her back, and soon she spat out the dirty and contaminated water. The people who were watching the show were all stunned. Unexpectedly, the good-for-nothing Miss Leylani could save the genius Miss Nicole. Patricia was relieved and hurriedly ordered someone to put on some clothes on Nicole's body to warm her up. At this time, someone shouted, "Master Sebastian and the doctor are coming." Everyone hurriedly made way for them. Sebastian came back from outside. Maybe he met the doctor at the door and knew that Nicole had fallen into the water. He was in a hurry and his face was full of worry. When he saw that Nicole was fine, he breathed a sigh of relief and praised Patricia. "Patricia, luckily you are here to save Nicole's life. Otherwise it would be bad." Yulia said, "Master, the person who saved Miss Nicole was Miss Leylani." "What?" Sebastian's face was full of doubts. "How is that possible?" Yulia said, "It's really Miss Leylani. Everyone saw it." Even so, Sebastian still could not believe it. How could a good-for-nothing save someone? The doctor on the side stepped forward and asked Leylani, "May I ask how Miss Leylani saved Miss Nicole?" Leylani told the doctor about the basic principles of artificial respiration and cardiac compression. The doctor instantly showed his appreciation and gave a thumbs up to Leylani. She is indeed a girl from a medical family. She even knows about the blowing technique. Fortunately, with Miss Leylani's help, Miss Nicole could survive. Although Miss Leylani is still young, she is extremely smart. I'm impressed. General, it's a blessing for you to have such a daughter. Sebastian had wanted to get even with Leylani, but he did not expect to receive such a compliment. This doctor was a famous, experienced doctor in the city. Since he had said so, it showed that Leylani was really capable. Sebastian's face was naturally happy in front of the doctor, but he still could not help but feel doubtful. If Leylani had never learned medical skills seriously, how could she know about the blowing technique when even Patricia, who was proficient in traditional medicine, did not know about it? Seeing the suspicion in his eyes, Leylani said, "Actually, I just read the medical book yesterday. The book had recorded the blowing technique. I happened to learn and apply it." She knew that artificial respiration was the same as ancient blowing technique. Therefore, it would be very convenient for her to complete the lie. When the doctor heard this, he praised Leylani even more. She dared to use the knowledge she had just learned yesterday. A doctor must have such courage. Before us, life is above all else. General, your daughter is really good at medicine. She will definitely become a famous doctor in the future. Sebastian felt proud, but was a little embarrassed. After all, Leylani used to be a useless person, but she suddenly shone brightly. Who knew if this praise was reliable or not? Sebastian did not dare to listen to the doctor's praise anymore. Therefore, he quickly ordered someone to send the doctor out. When the onlookers saw that Leylani not only saved a person, but was also praised by the doctor, they immediately changed their skeptical attitude and whispered about Leylani's ability. Amber listened to the praises of the crowd and felt more and more uneasy. She said disdainfully, "What's so great about her? It's just a coincidence. Don't forget that she's a good-for-nothing. She doesn't even know how to read. How can she learn any blowing technique from medical books?" As soon as these words were out, everyone was shaken. That's right, Miss Leylani was good for nothing. Everyone knew that if she was really smart, why had she been doing nothing for so many years? In the face of the wavering attitude of the crowd, Leylani was extremely indifferent. "I am the daughter of the general's mansion. I have attended school with you since I was a child. Amber, have you forgotten? It's just that I don't have the talent to study medicine, but I'm not a fool. No matter what I do, you can't wait to rush to slander me. How can you ignore me like this? Have you completely forgotten the etiquette and rules you learned when you were young? It seems that the good-for-nothing is not me, but you. You're lying. When our father hired a teacher to teach us how to read, he did not take you with us at all," Amber said angrily. Leylani chuckled. "Amber, you have spoken your mind. Do you mean that our father has treated us differently since we were young? He's our father. If outsiders hear that he was being partial, will the reputation of the general's mansion be ruined?" Amber's expression changed. Sebastian took care of his reputation and hurriedly scolded Amber. "You're really tired of living. Leylani had obviously learned to read together with you. How could she be illiterate? Even so, I don't believe that she really saved Nicole just now. She and Nicole have always been in bad terms with each other. I'm afraid that she wants Nicole to die. Who knows if she was saving her or hurting her just now?" In order to punish Leylani, Amber spoke without cover. "Enough." Sebastian was furious. "I have spoiled you too much, which is why you are so presumptuous. Your eldest sister is so kind, but you say that she is worthless. You simply lack discipline. Guards, take Miss Amber back to her room, and don't give her any food today." Hearing this, Patricia rushed out to plead for mercy. "Sebastian, Amber did not mean to offend Leylani. She's just young and immature. She's growing up now. How can she not eat for a day? Isn't it life-threatening? Nicole has just been saved. Do you want to lose another daughter?" Sebastian doted on Amber in his heart. He did not really want to punish her. He just wanted to maintain his image as an unbiased and loving father image in front of others. Now that Patricia had said this, he could take back his words. "Fine, you are still young and it's your first mistake. I will spare you this time. Go back to your room and stay there." This was the end of the matter, but Amber was not convinced. The more Sebastian protected her, the more she wanted to scold Leylani from head to toe. "I won't leave. I'm right. It's impossible for Leylani to save Nicole. She was the one who caused her to fall into the water." "What?" Sebastian's face changed. He looked at Leylani and asked, "Is this true?" Leylani turned a blind eye to his questioning. She just looked at Amber and sneered. "This is the first time that I have seen someone like you who had repaid kindness with Nicole into the water. If I had not saved her, you would have murdered Nicole. Besides, if I really wanted to hurt Nicole, why should I save her? What kind of blood feud do you have with Nicole? Why do you want to drag me, an innocent person, to bear the blame for you? Nicole and I are biological sisters. How could there be hatred between us? You are talking nonsense. I will tear your mouth apart." Amber was completely mad with anger. She rushed up to fight with Leylani. However, before she could touch Leylani, a strong slap landed on her face. "Evil creature! The person who caused Nicole to fall into the water was actually you. It's one thing for you to be arrogant in your daily life, but why are you still so lawless and denying your mistakes?" Sebastian was so angry that he was about to explode. Although he doted on Amber, the daughter he cared about the most was Nicole. When he thought of how his precious daughter, whom he was proud of, had almost died in Amber's hands, He wanted nothing more than to tear Amber into pieces. Patricia panicked. She had wanted to put this matter to rest. Unexpectedly, Leylani had spilled the beans. She could only teach Amber, "What are you waiting for? Apologize to your father quickly and say that you were careless and did not mean to do it. You won't cause such an accident in the future." Amber was naturally unwilling, but she could clearly feel that Sebastian's anger was stronger than before. If she continued to be disobedient, she might be punished by him. Therefore, she could only swallow her anger. Just as she was about to admit her mistake, she saw Leylani standing behind Sebastian and sneering at her. This was not enough. Leylani even stuck her tongue out to make a face at her, as if she was a villain who had succeeded. This time, Amber could not stand it anymore. "It was you who framed me. I did not intend to push Nicole into the water. I wanted to push you, but you avoided it. You just wanted to use this matter so that father will punish me." She roared and moved her hands very quickly. She directly pressed Leylani to the ground and sat on her. The servants on the side were all stunned. Unexpectedly, Amber was so reckless. Sebastian's anger could not be eliminated. Looking at Leylani's pitiful look of being bullied, Amber's unwillingness to admit her mistake and her shameless behavior, he took a few steps forward and kicked Amber to the ground unceremoniously. "How dare you mess around? Guards, tie Amber down and beat her 20 times. Throw her into the ancestral temple for a month. No one is allowed to let her out without my order. If someone lets her go privately or pleads for her, they will be punished with her." This time, Amber completely stopped and Patricia almost fell down. She wanted to plead for her daughter, but as soon as she saw Sebastian's gloomy eyes, she immediately did not dare to say anything. The general's official authority was not for show. After Sebastian gave the order, a guard immediately came up to drag Amber. Patricia felt sorry for her daughter and hurriedly told the guards, "This is the youngest daughter of the Millington family. She has been pampered since she was a child and has never been punished. You have to be gentle." However, Sebastian ordered in a low voice, "Don't show any mercy. If I don't teach her a lesson today, she won't repent. A loving mother has failed children. This time, you are not allowed to intervene in this matter. Beat her immediately and beat her hard." With Sebastian's absolute order, the guards brought a stool and tied Amber up. Before they started to hit her, Amber was so scared that she burst into tears. "Daddy, I know I was wrong. Please spare me. I won't do it again." Patricia also hurriedly pleaded with him. "Master, no matter how many mistakes Amber has made, she is still your daughter. If you hurt her today, how can she get married in the future?" Sebastian glared at Patricia angrily. "If she is so ignorant, even if she gets married, it will bring shame to the Millington family. It's better to beat her to death here today than to be pointed at by others when she goes to her mother-in-law's house in the future." "Beat her! Master!" Patricia still wanted to plead for mercy, but was stopped by Nicole. She gave Patricia a look, indicating that it was not good for her to provoke Sebastian at this time. Otherwise, Amber's ending would be even worse than it was now. Ever since she woke up from her coma, Nicole had been observing Leylani. She saw Leylani's teasing face. If it weren't for her provocation, Amber would not have ended up like this. It seemed that she had underestimated Leylani's vicious means. At this time, under Sebastian's supervision, the guards had already lifted the plank and hit Amber hard. Amber cried in pain. "Daddy, it hurts so much. I'm going to die." "You're crying in pain after one beating? Continue." Sebastian was determined to teach Amber a lesson. It didn't matter what she said. Soon, after Amber was hit several times and her butt was badly mutilated. Seeing this, Patricia was so distressed that she burst into tears. Ignoring Nicole's obstruction, she rushed towards Sebastian and knelt down to plead for mercy. "Master, Amber is already bleeding. If you continue to hit her, she will die. Please stop." Sebastian's voice was cold. The punishment this time is to let her know that she has made a mistake against Leylani and Nicole. If Leylani and Nicole are willing to forgive her, I will let her go. Otherwise, I will beat her to death. After saying these words, Amber was beaten a few more times, and her injury became more and more severe. This scene shocked Nicole. Therefore, she quickly said to Sebastian, "Dad, I don't blame Amber anymore. Since she has already realized her mistake, please please let her go. As she spoke, she quickly looked at Leylani for fear that she would not cooperate. She said, "Leylani, you are always generous. You know that Amber did not mean it. You won't make things difficult for her, will you? Amber had already been punished. You don't have to worry about this anymore." Leylani did not reply. She only waited until the guards had hit Amber 18 times before she revealed a worried expression and said, "Father, I believe that Amber did not do it on purpose. She must have learned her lesson after getting hit. Why don't we let her off?" After she spoke, Sebastian shouted for the guards to stop. "You're lucky today. Your two sisters love you so much. You'd better treat them better in the future. Do you understand?" Amber nodded with tears in her eyes, but her heart was full of resentment. After the beating is done, then only he ordered for them to stop. Seeing that the punishment had finally stopped, Patricia rushed up and ordered someone to bring medicine for Amber. There were thick tears in her eyes and deep hatred for Leylani. As soon as Amber was taken away, Sebastian planned to leave. Suddenly, a maid in the crowd whispered, "Just now, when I saw David secretly molesting Miss Nicole's chest when he saved her, he was so bold." These words caused a stir. This matter was related to her reputation. Nicole wanted to deal with the guard in private, but she did not expect that she would be exposed in front of so many people. She quickly turned to look for the maidservant who had spoken, but there were many maidservants present. The maidservant had shut up immediately after she finished speaking. Nicole could not find out who it was at all. Sebastian also heard the maid's words. He instantly looked at David with a pair of sinister eyes. David was so frightened that he immediately kneeled. "Master, heaven and earth as my witness, I did not take advantage of Miss Nicole at all. I just dived into the water to save her. Maybe I was eager to save her and accidentally touched her, but I didn't mean to do it. I hope Master Sebastian can understand. I saved Miss Nicole out of duty. I don't dare to ask for any reward. I only hope that Miss Nicole will be fine, then it's worth my life." At this moment, Nicole's gaze at David was as sharp as a steel knife. Her expression was extremely ugly. Luckily, David did not confess. Otherwise, the news of her breast being touched by him would spread throughout the entire Jamari kingdom. She did not know which bitch was so meddlesome. She would not spare that person if she found out who it was. Madame Patricia rolled her eyes coldly and hoped that David would not admit it. No matter whether he touched it or not, he could only say that he did not touch it. Otherwise, how could her daughter marry a good family? She thought that she must get rid of David in secret so that he would not spout nonsense. However, with so many pairs of eyes watching her today, it was impossible for her to get rid of all of them. The only solution now was to make sure that David would not admit it. That way, her daughter's reputation would be preserved. "Since you had saved her and you did not do it on purpose, I will reward you." Before Madame Patricia could finish her words, a figure had suddenly stepped forward. She pointed at David and started to criticize him. "David, you pervert, how dare you touch Nicole's chest? I've already discovered that your hands were lecherous. Just now, everyone saw that you had launched a sneak attack on molesting her chest when you saved her. At that time, Nicole was in your hands, therefore I did not dare to provoke you. I was afraid that you would not save her, therefore I did not dare to say anything. Now that Nicole has woken up, I want to report you to Master Sebastian. How dare you have the nerve to ask for a reward? People like you must be expelled from the general's mansion, so that you won't harm other girls again. Father, you must punish him severely. Leaving such a scourge in the mansion will threaten the innocence and safety of our sisters." David was so scared of Leylani's words that he lowered his head. Nicole was so angry that she frowned. Nicole glared at her with hatred. "This bitch, does she think that the trouble, it's not big enough? She must have done it on purpose. She wanted to tell everyone about this and had even exaggerated her description, making it seem like she had been touched in the chest by David. Furthermore, she had even used harsh words like snuck attack and play with her. She was simply trying to ruin her reputation. Even if she was the victim, if news of this matter got out, she would lose face." Seeing Nicole's ashen face, Leylani smiled coldly. If just with this, Nicole could not take it anymore. How could she bear the fact that she had been framed and had an affair with others earlier? Nicole did not know how terrible it felt before it happened to her. Now she could feel how it felt like to be framed. However, the pain Nicole's suffering was far worse than hers. This little pain was nothing. She still wanted to make her feel more pain, more painful than herself. She, Leylani, had never been one to be bullied. When Sebastian heard Leylani's accusation, he suddenly glared coldly at David. "How dare you, you filthy slave! How dare you covet the daughter of the general's mansion? Guards, press this slave down and beat him 50 times. Master, please spare my life. I did not. I really saved Miss Nicole. Master, you can't hit a slave. The general's manor can't do such a thing. I am a good person. Master, you can't disappoint everyone." Upon hearing David's words, Madame Patricia suddenly walked up to Sebastian and whispered in his ear, "Master, this person can't be beaten for the time being. There is no secret in the world. If we beat him, this matter will definitely spread. On one hand, it will damage Nicole's reputation. On the other hand, it will make the servants under us feel bitterly disappointed. Those slaves are all in one body. They are very good at communicating with each other. If they are punished for saving people, the slaves will no longer be loyal to us, and it will not be good for us. In my opinion, we should let him go first and reward him for his contribution of saving Nicole. In order to prevent him from revealing what happened today and damaging Nicole's reputation, we will find another chance to kill him later." After Madame Patricia finished speaking, she secretly made a gesture of holding the knife. No one else saw it, but Sebastian and Leylani saw it clearly. After hearing this, Sebastian's shrewd eyes flashed with a hint of fierceness. He immediately reached out to stop the servant who was dragging David. "Wait a minute. I have already found out that David was wronged. He saved Miss Nicole, and he deserves to be rewarded. David, later go to the accounts room to collect 200 taels of silver. It's my reward for saving your daughter." Upon hearing this, David immediately knelt on the ground and bowed to Sebastian. "Thank you, Master, for sparing my life. Thank you, Master, for giving me justice. Thank you, Master, for clearing my name. All right, no one is allowed to talk about this in the future, especially those false rumors. I will not spare anyone who dares to spread it," Madame Patricia said coldly, staring at the maids with threatening eyes. The maids quickly lowered their heads and expressed that they would not talk nonsense. Only then did the matter come to an end. After sealing everyone's mouths, Nicole heaved a sigh of relief. She suddenly looked at Leylani and saw that she had a nonchalant expression, as if the matter had nothing to do with her. She was extremely hateful of her. It was all thanks to her. She always felt that the look in Leylani's eyes was dangerous and calm on the surface, but the steel blade in the bottom of her eyes could rush straight into her heart and cut her intestines, which made her feel scared and terrified. In the frost garden, Amber lay prone on the bed and groaned in pain. She looked as Penny and her personal maid, Annie, carefully cleaned her wound. She saw that her butt was badly mutilated, like a mass of meat being smashed into minced meat. Penny cleaned the wound for Amber and saw that the wound was dark purple, and the tender flesh on it was rolling like rose petals. There were beads of blood in the white flesh, which made people's scalps numb. Every time she applied the medicine, Amber screamed like a pig being slaughtered. At the same time, she kept cursing at Leylani. "It's all that little butch's fault. Mother, it hurts. It hurts. Why don't you avenge me and don't kill that little butch? I wanted to push her, but accidentally pushed Nicole. I don't know if she has eyes on her back and could see my movements." Patricia, who was sitting on the armchair, held the teacup in her hand and glared at Amber with her gloomy eyes. "I warned you to be careful. How could you be so reckless? Even if you want to make trouble for her, you should have good timing. You are too stupid. You caused Nicole to catch a cold, and you were beaten up like this." Patricia felt both pain and hatred in her heart. Her daughters, whom she was proud of, had both suffered. Nicole had fallen into the water and caught a cold. She had been molested in the chest by a servant, and her reputation had been damaged. Amber had been punished with 20 beatings because she had hit Leylani in public. Her fair and tender fingers dug into the candle on the table with hatred, and her dark eyes showed a cold light like a cold pool. I underestimated that little butch. Her mother is an old butch, like a stone, smelly and hard. She used to be a coward, but now she has become so scheming. It seems that we can't keep that little butch alive. I really regret letting her live. At that time, I thought she was a weed that could die at any time. I thought that she would die sooner or later if she lived on her own. I didn't expect that the weed had grown into a small tree. I underestimated her. I underestimated the enemy too much. It's not easy to remove the small tree from its roots now. Nicole, who was sitting on a rosewood chair, coughed lightly. Her bright eyes were hanging on a pale little face. Mother, no matter how powerful she is still a weed. Even if she grows into a small tree, it will be easy to get rid of her. We must get rid of her as soon as possible before she grows. If we don't get rid of this weed, it will grow again. Nicole, did you come up with a solution? Tell me. I can't wait for her to die as soon as possible so that I can vent my anger. Ouch, it hurts. Amber frowned and howled as someone was applying medicine for her. Nicole raised her beautiful phoenix-like eyes, which were filled with a ruthless coldness. The chess pieces left behind by Mother in the moon house have worked. Lorraine is one of them. If she were to take action, I don't think Leylani will be able to live for a month. Patricia rolled her eyes. If you did not mention Lorraine, I've completely forget about her. Later, go and tell her. Patricia whispered a few words in Penny's ear, hoping that Penny would take the order and leave quickly. Patricia showed a satisfied smile on her face. Nicole coughed lightly and continued. Leylani is very different from before. I'm afraid that Lorraine is no match for her. We have to make preparations. Mother, aren't you familiar with Priest Morgan from the St. Yost Church? He is good at subduing demons and devils. No matter how powerful the demons are, they can't escape from him. Now that Leylani of the General's mansion has suddenly changed, I suspect that she has been possessed by demons. We have to get rid of the demons in her body so that our house can be safe. You're right. You're really clever. I'll send someone to see Priest Morgan in St. Yost Church right away. If Lorraine does not get rid of Leylani, I'll send someone to invite Priest Morgan to come here immediately. Madame Millington believes in Buddhism and Christianity the most in her life. As long as you accuse her of being possessed by demons, I believe that Madame Millington will hate her and get rid of her. It was really a good plan to get rid of Leylani. Amber, who was lying on the bed, also said, Yes, this butch has occupied the position of the crown princess for too long. With her around, Nicole can't get the position. Nicole is as beautiful as a fairy and has great talent, but she is below this little good-for-nothing. When we get rid of this little good-for-nothing, Nicole will have a chance to be crown princess. As soon as Nicole ascended to the throne, she would not have to worry about finding a good marriage. In the evening, Leylani went to the Cloud Garden to visit Madame Millington. Madame Millington liked peace and quiet. There were always medical books, Buddha statues, jade, and other things in her room. People of her age liked them, but the few sisters of the Millington family did not. Every time Nicole and the others came to pay their respects, they would find an excuse to leave in a hurry. Madame Millington wanted to talk more with her granddaughters, but it was an extravagant hope. Now that Leylani had came to the Cloud Garden to talk to her, she could not help but look at Leylani a few more times. This granddaughter was smart enough to find a backer. Knowing that Madame Millington was quietly observing her, she proposed to massage Madame Millington back. Madame Millington waved her hand lightly and said, "You don't need to massage my back. It's too late today. If you really want to, you can come earlier in the future." The implication was that she allowed Leylani to visit her often. However, she still did not trust Leylani and was still testing her. At this moment, Dahlia, who was beside Madame Millington, said with a smile, "Madame Millington, thanks to Miss Leylani, Miss Nicole's life was saved today. Miss Leylani is extremely smart, and she has impressed everyone." Dahlia had a good impression of Leylani. She felt that Leylani did not have the arrogance and nobility on her, therefore she sincerely praised her. Leylani glanced at Dahlia with a smile and quickly said, "I was just lucky. I happened to have read the medical book. At that time, I could not make up my mind. I was afraid that I would have to take responsibility if I could not cure her. Fortunately, God protected Nicole and me, therefore I could save her. Madame Millington had heard Dahlia's report before. When she heard that Leylani was the person who had saved Nicole, she could not help but think highly of her. You are indeed my granddaughter. You are decisive today and brave. You saved Nicole. You deserve a reward. At this moment, an older female servant's voice came from outside the door. Madame Millington, Madame Patricia is here to see you. Why is she here? Madame Millington's eyes darkened. Leylani looked out of the room quietly and saw Patricia open the curtain and entered anxiously. However, as soon as she entered, the anxiety on her face disappeared and she changed into a kind and calm look. From Patricia's eyes, Leylani had guessed that she knew that she had come to Madame Millington's place. Patricia was afraid that Leylani would be backed up by Madame Millington, therefore she hurriedly kept an eye on her. Greetings, mother. Leylani stood up, brushed her skirt, and smiled sweetly at Patricia. In the eyes of Patricia, her smile was provocative and threatening. She suppressed the anger in her heart, bowed to Madame Millington, and sat opposite to Leylani. As soon as she sat down, her snake-like eyes were wrapped around Leylani. She smiled coldly and said, Leylani has become filial today. You know how to visit Madame Millington. In the past, no matter how I called you, you did not come. Your two sisters, Nicole and Amber, came every day. They are filial to Madame Millington. No matter in spring, summer, autumn, or winter, they were never absent. Hearing this, Madame Millington looked at Leylani with a cold look. However, Leylani was not in a hurry. She wiped her tears with grievance. When she looked up, she looked at Madame Millington with tears in her eyes. Grandma, it's not that I'm not filial to you and don't want to come and see you, but that I have my own difficulties. Grandma has always been kind to me and treats everyone equally. You also treat me fairly and kindly. How can I not love you? I really have my own difficulties. Hearing this, Madame Millington's hard heart softened instantly. Leylani did not look like she was pretending. She looked as if she had really suffered a lot. She had frequently heard Madame Patricia's negative words about her. She thought they were all daughters of General's mansion. No matter how excessive Madame Patricia was, Leylani still lived a good life. After all, the General's mansion was a large family and a lot of money. No matter what, she would live a good life. However, from Leylani's tone, there seemed to be something else. In the past, she did not like Leylani. She always felt that this girl did not like to talk, nor did she come to greet her. Her mouth was not sweet, and she did not care about her elders. Now it seemed that this was not the case. Her heart softened, and she immediately looked at Leylani. If you have any difficulties, just tell me. Don't worry, I'll help you. Leylani raised her eyelids slightly and glanced at Patricia sarcastically. There is an evil slave named Lorraine in my courtyard. She is good at bullying people. She not only robbed my mother of the dowry she left for me, but also took away my monthly allowance. I often have nothing to eat and wear because of her deliberate theft. I have no grievances with her, but she keeps looking at me like an enemy and often abuses me. She tortured me so badly that I don't dare to come to see you. I am afraid that she will think that I am here to complain. When I go back, she will retaliate more ruthlessly against me. I missed Grandma, but I was afraid that you would be worried when you saw me like this. I was afraid that Lorraine would seek revenge in private, therefore I did not dare to come. Grandma, do you know that I have not had a full meal in the past few years? If I had a full meal, how could I be so skinny? And that Lorraine had robbed me of my food and monthly allowance. She ate so much that she is extremely fat. She was as strong as a mountain. I am not a match for her at all. She has a bunch of evil slaves. How could I, a little girl, dare to disobey her orders to visit you? If it wasn't for the fact that she accidentally had a stomachache last time and could not get out of bed for a few days, I would not have had the chance to visit Grandma. Hearing Leylani's words, Madame Millington was so shocked that her eyes almost popped out. She slammed the Buddha bead in her hand on the table with a bang and said with a dignified look, "It's so hateful that there are such unruly servants in the mansion. Patricia, why don't I know about this? You are the hostess of the General's mansion. Don't you know that there are such evil slaves bullying Leylani? I gave you the power to manage the family. Is this how you manage the family?" Hearing this, Patricia was so scared that her heart trembled. She quickly said, "Mother, I'm busy with work every day and can't manage so many things. I don't know that there is such an evil slave in the moon house. I gave you the position of hostess because I hope you can take up the important responsibilities. If you can't take on the important responsibilities, you might as well let Rebecca manage the family." Madame Millington shouted coldly, which scared Patricia so much that her heart trembled. Patricia quickly lowered her head and said, "Mother, don't worry. I will definitely investigate this matter strictly. When I find out the truth, if what Leylani said is true, I will punish the slave severely if there is really an evil slave who bullied her master." In other words, it was not her fault if they found out that Leylani had framed Lorraine and talked nonsense. Madame Millington gave her a cold look and said, "You'd better figure it out for me. Leylani, why is that evil slave so arrogant? Does she have some backer in the mansion?" After that, she looked at Patricia suspiciously. Leylani quickly and respectfully answered Madame Millington, "I dare not talk nonsense about this, but that Lorraine always said that she was Madame Patricia's trusted aide and her right-hand man, therefore she can be so arrogant. I don't know if what Lorraine said is true or not. Maybe she used Madame Patricia's power." Hearing the answer, Madame Millington looked at Patricia coldly. Patricia raised her eyelids with hatred and quickly retorted, "Leylani, you must have been fooled by Lorraine. She used to be a servant of mine, but I have never given her any power. Such an evil slave thinks that she has worked for me, but acted arrogantly in my name. I will punish her." Leylani smiled, but her smile was not cold at all. "In that case, I'll wait for Madame Patricia to punish that evil slave." Patricia was so angry that she felt like she was cutting flesh with a knife. She wanted to use Lorraine to deal with her, but she did not expect that the latter would complain first. Now that she could not keep Lorraine, how could she use her? No, she could not throw away this chess piece like this. Even if she wanted to lose it, she had to make full use of her value before losing it. Even Leylani did not expect to get rid of Lorraine immediately. After the conversation, Madame Millington remembered what she had just said and took out a jade bracelet from her wrist. "You saved your sister today, therefore you should be rewarded. I'll give you a bracelet to show my appreciation." Leylani quickly bowed to Madame Millington and said solemnly, "Thank you, Grandma. I will be filial to you in the future. I will let you live a better life." Although her words were a little naive, it made Madame Millington felt warm in her heart. Patricia's cold face froze on the spot. Just as her expression froze, Madame Millington's voice suddenly reached her ears. "Dahlia said that you mentioned that whoever saved Nicole will be rewarded heavily?" Patricia's face darkened in embarrassment. To reward Leylani was like cutting her flesh. She hated Leylani so much that she was unwilling to give it to her, even if it was one piece of silver. However, Madame Millington spoke and glared at her with a sense of oppression. The maids around her looked at her with unclear eyes. If she did not give anything to Leylani, she would not be able to leave on a good note. Dahlia said with a smile, "Madame Millington, Madame Patricia has always been generous. Even the servants who did the job were rewarded well. Today Miss Leylani saved Miss Nicole. This is a life-saving grace. Madame Patricia will not be stingy to reward Miss Leylani. After all, even with 1,000 gold coins, it will be hard to buy a person's life. Miss Leylani is Miss Nicole's savior. I think Madame Patricia must have prepared a generous reward for Miss Leylani." Madame Millington hoped that Patricia would bleed a little to warn her. Dahlia would naturally follow her and stare at Patricia. Now that Dahlia had mentioned it, Patricia could no longer avoid it. She showed a very ugly smile on her face and squeezed her fingernails deeply into the flesh. She smiled and said to Penny, "You're right, Dahlia. I've prepared a gift for Leylani. I wanted to find an opportunity to thank her, but now it's a good time. Penny, go to my room and get 200 pieces of silver." 200 pieces of silver was not a small amount. It was Leylani's monthly allowance for 10 years. It was the same reward as David's, but it was absolutely not a lot for the general's mansion. Patricia had treated her as a lowly servant like David. That was why she had given her such an amount. However, it did not matter to her. It was good to let Patricia pay her 200 pieces of silver and it was enough to buy a lot of medicinal materials. This time, Madame Millington showed a satisfied smile on her face. When Penny came back with the silvers, Patricia looked at Leylani in a strange manner. She said, "Leylani has recovered quite well since she was molested by the criminals last time. Moreover, when the big families in the capital city heard about this, they all praised her for her unyielding resistance to the criminals." It had been such a long time since she mentioned it, therefore she sneered. Patricia obviously wanted to rub salt on her wound. "For the sake of our family's reputation, for the sake of the reputation and future of the daughters of the General's mansion, no matter how fierce the villains are, I will definitely resist. I will keep my reputation even if I die." Fortunately, the villains did not succeed, and they were punished by the Crown Prince. They ended up with what they deserved. Leylani took a sip of tea and said slowly. Patricia raised her eyebrows and said, "Is that so? As far as I know, there are many traces of humiliation on you when you came back that day. Although the criminal did not do anything bad, he touched you in the end. Even if you did not lose your virginity, you were also dirty after being touched by a man. Since you paid so much attention to your reputation and resisted with your life, you could have bite your tongue and committed suicide at that time to protect your reputation." As soon as Patricia said this, Madame Millington's face became cold. Her face was extremely gloomy. No one could figure out what her expression meant. Was she disgusted with the fact that someone had touched Leylani's body, or was she disgusted by Patricia's provocation? Seeing that Patricia refused to let her go, Leylani knew what she should do. She said righteously, "I want to die in the name of honor. But if I really commit suicide by biting my tongue, people will definitely think that I have been insulted, so I can't defend myself. Moreover, if I want to die, the Crown Prince would not allow it. He was the first to punish the criminals and also asked me to go back to the mansion to have a good rest. The Crown Prince said that my body belonged to my parents, therefore we should not destroy it. This is to show our filial. Since ancient times, women in the palace were regarded as disrespectful when they cut their hair, let alone suicide. Suicide in the palace is a serious crime involving the people of the family. Why should I commit suicide? If I commit suicide, it will show that others were unfair to her and she had suffered great grievance. I was just touched by the gangsters, but did not suffer any great grievance. Therefore, I did not commit suicide. Father and grandmother worked hard to raise me up, and I still have to repay them while I'm alive. Therefore, I can't end my life easily. This is unfilial to my parents. The Crown Prince did not punish me, but my mother questioned me and wanted me to commit suicide. You threatened me like this. Are you questioning the result of your highness and trying to implicate the whole general's mansion?" At first, Leylani was calm, but when the conversation changed, she became stern and indifferent, which made Patricia froze on the spot. "Leylani, you've pulled a lot of strings. You've not only praised Madame Millington, but also used the Crown Prince to oppress others. You're really scheming." Patricia froze on the spot and glared at Leylani angrily. However, she did not know how to answer. She only felt that Leylani had become extremely clever. Even she could not defeat her with her clever mind. Leylani had to look at Madame Millington with an embarrassed smile, while Madame Millington looked at her with approval. "Go on." Leylani sat down and lowered her head with some grievance. "I know that Mother has never liked me, but she has double standards. If I should die to atone for someone touching me, then should Nicole also die to show her innocence from having her chest being touched by a guard this afternoon?" This time, everyone was stunned on the spot, including Nicole, who had changed her clothes and was walking in from the outside. Nicole had also received news that Leylani had come to please Madame Millington. She had come here on purpose, as she could not allow Leylani to compete first. As a result, when she hurried to the door, she heard Leylani's thorny words. She suddenly trembled and looked pale. She almost spat out a mouthful of blood from her throat. Seeing that Patricia was choked by her words and looked like she was about to vent her anger, Leylani said slowly, "Mother, it's not easy to be a woman. Men in this world are strong and women are weak, so we have to support each other and care about each other when we encounter any incident. Just like when Nicole fell into the water and I was the first to save her. If everyone took revenge, then our family would not be strong. The implication was that Patricia was a narrow-minded and vengeful person, and Leylani was a generous person. After listening to Leylani's words, Madame Millington became more and more interested in her and nodded in her heart. At the same time, she looked at Patricia unhappily and said, "All right, after you give the reward to Leylani, you can go back to your frost garden. Don't stand in my way. Don't interrupt my conversation with Leylani." Patricia used to be able to converse well with Madame Millington. Otherwise, Madame Millington would not have given her the position of the hostess. But now she began to hate her and complimented Leylani, which made Patricia feel as uncomfortable as being poked in the heart. When she returned to the moon house, Leylani was in a good mood with 200 pieces of silver in her hands. Now she had money to return to that monster from last time. Thinking of Patricia's depressed expression, Leylani felt relieved. She could eat a big bowl of food for dinner. However, the next morning, Leylani received a piece of news from Rachel. Early in the morning, maids found a man's body in the lotus pond. After retrieving his body, they found that it was David. Patricia ordered everyone to block the news and investigate it thoroughly at the same time. In the end, they found out that David was killed by a guard from his hometown. The guard coveted David's 200 pieces of silver and took his money, then threw him into the lotus pond. Then he stole the 200 pieces of silver and escaped. Patricia sent someone to arrest the murderer and even reported it to the officials. However, no one was caught. Patricia ordered to strengthen the security of the general's mansion. No one was allowed to enter without her permission. At the same time, Patricia strictly investigated the guards who stayed in the mansion, hoping to find out who the murderer was. Leylani knew that capturing the murderer was just an excuse. Patricia's powerful actions were a warning to everyone. The day before, many people saw that David had touched Nicole's chest. Patricia was most afraid that this matter would be spread out. After David's death, there was naturally no witness, and others did not dare to talk nonsense. When Leylani heard the news, she was shocked. Patricia was indeed a ruthless person. She would treat the guards like this today and would treat her like this tomorrow. The murderer had not been confirmed. According to Patricia's ruthlessness, it was very likely that she had sent someone to assassinate David. She had also made up a murderer from the same hometown, trying to cover up her ugly behavior. Patricia treated her as a thorn in her eyes. She had to be strong enough to protect herself. Otherwise, she would die without knowing why. Early in the morning, 3 days later, at the moon house. The morning sun was warm but not dazzling, like a thin hand caressing the earth. Leylani and Yulia carried Madame Giselle's box. She was ready to take out the old clothes from the box and dry them under the sun. At this moment, Rachel crept out of the inner courtyard and whispered to Leylani, which made her frown. After Rachel left, Yulia hurriedly asked Leylani what had happened and why Rachel was sneaking around. She lowered her eyelids and quickly entered the room to grab a bottle of itchy powder. Then she said to Yulia, "Lorraine is going to smash our house later. Get ready and fight against the enemy at any time." It was her turn now that Patricia had dealt with David. What? Madame Patricia must have instructed that old sly servant. But Miss Leylani, Lorraine is feeling better now. I'm really a little afraid of her. After saying that, Yulia's face fell and her palms were sweating nervously. A cold light burst out of Leylani's eyes. She gritted her teeth coldly and said, "Don't be afraid of her. I have plenty of tricks to deal with this evil slave. Hurry up, take my mother's clothes in first." These clothes were the only thing her mother had left for her. She had to keep them and not let them be damaged by Lorraine. However, as soon as she finished speaking, a group of powerful female servants rushed out of the inner courtyard, led by a fierce-looking Lorraine. After lying on the bed for 10 days, Lorraine's body finally recovered. As soon as she recovered, she received Patricia's order and rushed to the outer courtyard with her claws and teeth. As soon as she rushed to the outer courtyard, she saw Leylani and Yulia, who were collecting clothes. She knew that those old clothes belonged to Madame Giselle. She immediately ordered Sylvia and Emma to rush up. Sylvia, Emma, You two go and take her clothes. Take them and cut them into pieces. This little bitch dared to drug me. Destroy all these old clothes. The others, smash them hard. Smash this bitch's house." As soon as Lorraine gave the order, the group of old maids rushed up. Sylvia instantly went forward, grabbed the clothes from Leylani's hands, and then picked up the scissors with hatred. Soon the clothes were torn into strips. Leylani stared at them with resentment, and her eyes were full of cruelty. At this time, the others rushed into her room, took out the bedding, clothes, medical books, tea set, tables and chairs in her room, and threw them away. They smashed everything in the room, and soon smashed the courtyard and the small house into pieces. "What are you doing? How dare you, Lorraine? This belongs to Miss Leylani. You can't smash it." Yulia rushed forward to protect Madame Giselle's clothes and stared at Lorraine angrily. She was anxious and angry. When she saw that Madame Giselle's clothes were destroyed, her eyes instantly turned red. As for Lorraine, she pressed on to Leylani step by step, staring at her fiercely with her fat face. "Little hoof, how dare you drug me? I will kill you today." After she finished speaking, she rushed over to grab Leylani. Leylani had expected that she would head towards her. She moved quickly to the side, and she quickly moved behind Lorraine and sprinkled a lot of itchy powder on her. Seeing that Leylani dared to dodge, Lorraine sneered. Suddenly, she raised her hand and a dagger appeared in her hand. "Leylani, I'd like to see how far you can hide. Hades wants you to die at midnight. Don't think you can live until midnight. If you offend Madame Patricia, you will be killed, just like David." As soon as Leylani saw the cold dagger, she took a deep breath. Lorraine had exposed the truth of Patricia's order. It seemed that she must be killed. Only the dead could keep secrets. They were determined to kill her today. As she tried to dodge, she tried her best to spread the itchy powder on Lorraine's body. It was not an ordinary itchy powder. It was specially made by her. It was 10 times more vicious than ordinary itchy powder. Lorraine had too many claws and teeth, and there were too many people with her. It was impossible for Leylani or Yulia to fight against her. At this moment, Leylani found that they had caught Yulia. Sylvia and Emma were slapping Yulia in the face continuously. In an instant, Yulia's face was swollen, her mouth was bleeding, and her hair was messy. Seeing that Yulia was still stubbornly glaring at them after suffering, Leylani's heart seemed to have been pricked by a needle, and it felt as though a knife has pierced through her heart. She was concentrating her attention on Yulia when suddenly Lorraine slashed at her arm. She had no time to dodge before her arm was cut open. Her arms were stained with blood, and Yulia was beaten. Leylani was extremely angry. She picked up a teapot on the ground and threw it at Lorraine. There were tea and tea leaves in the teapot. As soon as she threw it at Lorraine, the tea leaves flowed out and stuck onto Lorraine's face. The water made Lorraine's face ugly. Some tea leaves were stuck in Lorraine's eyes, which made her extremely angry that she opened her mouth and cursed. Seeing this, Leylani rushed forward and poured all the itchy powder in the bottle into Lorraine's mouth. Lorraine realized that she had been poured with powder and immediately spat it out. As she spat it out, she dashed towards Leylani angrily. She reached out and tugged at Leylani's clothes, wanting to pull her over and kill her. However, as soon as she tugged on Leylani, a sparkling ruby ring rolled to the ground. When she saw the ring, Leylani's eyes lit up. She took a step forward, grabbed the ring, and held it tightly in her hand. Seeing that the ring had been snatched away by Lorraine, Leylani narrowed her sharp eyes, and the words of the arrogant man flashed through her mind. "This is my token of love. Just you wait, I will marry you." No matter what, she could not give this ring to Lorraine. Even if she hated that arrogant man, every time she saw this ring, she would think of his beautiful promise. Like all innocent girls, she was looking forward to this promise coming true. Therefore, she had to protect the ring. However, given Lorraine's greedy personality, she would never return the ring in her hands. "Lorraine, give the ring back to me," Leylani shouted coldly, and her chest heaved heavily with her voice. At this moment, she wished she could kill this old witch. The woman held the ring in her hand and smiled coldly, looking greedy. "You good-for-nothing, how dare you hide your treasures and not give them to me? I should blame you for hiding them. I don't care. Since it's fallen to the ground, I'll take it. Anyway, you're about to die. Why are you still thinking about these worldly things? Madame Patricia wanted her to kill Leylani in the chaos, therefore she would not let her go so easily. Let's wait and see who will die in a while. Lorraine, I was transformed by a cat demon. With 9 lives, I won't die so easily. I'll count to 3. If you don't return the ring to me quickly, I'll make you wish you were dead. Leylani stood there coldly, and her dark eyes suddenly exuded a powerful aura. She stared straight at Lorraine, making her take a step back. The little hoof had an imposing manner. It seemed that there was a huge amount of power hidden in her body. Lorraine glared at her. Even if you were a cat demon with 9 lives, you would not be able to defeat my Gelsemium elegans. My dagger is coated with the lethal poison of the Gelsemium elegans. Your arm has been slashed, and you're already poisoned. If you don't dispel the poison within 2 hours, you'll be poisoned to death. That venom will quickly seep into your blood and reach your internal organs. Then your intestines will pile up together and turn black and rotten. Your stomach will continue to ache. In the end, all the flesh in your body will rot, and you'll die. Knowing that Leylani was not easy to deal with, Patricia gave a dagger stained with venom to Lorraine. As long as it pierced through Leylani, even if it was only a little bit of skin, she would be poisoned to death. Hearing this, Leylani noticed that the flesh on her right arm had gradually turned black. The Gelsemium elegans was extremely poisonous and was not to be treated lightly. Patricia was so vicious that she wanted to get rid of her immediately. Fortunately, her closed-door training for the past few days was not in vain. Every day she would lock herself in her room to read medical books and make and detoxify poisons. The first thing she did was make the antidote to the Gelsemium elegans, because she had known that in Jamari Kingdom, this poison was very famous and was often used to kill people. Moreover, Amber was good at making poison and detoxification, and she was best at making Gelsemium elegans. Everyone knew about this. If Patricia wanted to kill her, she would naturally choose the poison made by Amber as it was convenient. In order to guard against Amber, Leylani had long known what poison she would make and was well prepared. If Lorraine did not mention it, Leylani would have thought that it was some strange poison. The corners of her mouth lifted coldly. It was just Gelsemium elegans. The medical poison was a family. It was a piece of cake for her, a female miracle doctor who was proficient in all kinds of poisons. When she thought of this, she quickly took out the omnipotent antidote she had made from her sleeves. The so-called omnipotent antidote was made of Tripterygium wilfordii, mung bean, honeysuckle, licorice, lychee stem, raw soy milk, and so on. Every herb in this antidote could cure ordinary poisons, and they were famous all-purpose antidotes. After taking out the omnipotent antidote, she quickly poured out a handful of it from her arms. She then hid the antidote and stared coldly at Lorraine. It was at this moment that Lorraine suddenly let out an uncomfortable cry. She began to scratch her body in an urgent manner. The faster she scratched, the harder she scratched. The more she scratched, the more vicious it became. It was as if she was about to scratch off her skin. At the same time, Sylvia, Emma, and the others also noticed that something was wrong with their bodies. Their bodies began to itch, and their symptoms were different from Lorraine's. They were lighter. However, no matter how light it was itchy. At this moment, they did not care about hitting Yulia. Instead, they let go and scratched their bodies one by one. After Yulia was released, she ran to Leylani's side to protect her with a puzzled look. "Miss Leylani, don't be afraid. I'll protect you." "What's wrong with them? Why are they all scratching themselves?" Feeling distressed, Leylani touched Yulia's swollen face, took out a medicine bottle from her pocket, and handed it to her. "Yulia, you've suffered. This is the snow dew ointment. Hurry up and apply it on your face so that your face will be less swollen." "Thank you, Miss Leylani." Yulia took the medicine bottle with gratitude and reached out to apply the ointment on her face. When she applied it, her face was cool and comfortable. The burning sensation disappeared in an instant. She looked at Leylani with admiration. At this time, all the old maids who had touched Leylani mother's clothes suddenly began to roll on the ground. "Ouch! It's so itchy. Why is it so itchy? It seems that there are thousands of insects biting me. Help! Who will save me?" Lorraine was the one who had been rolling the hardest. she was already covered in wounds by now. Those scratches were much deeper than the wounds on Leylani's arm. Leylani looked at her arm again. Because she had applied the medicine in time, a mass of black blood slowly flowed out of her arm. She quickly wiped it with a handkerchief. It was the poison forced out by the antidote. As long as the poison was forced out, her blood would become normal red, and then her poison would be cured. She reached out and gently squeezed the wound. Soon, the poisonous blood on her arm was forced out. After a few seconds, it was cleared. The skin on her arm returned to the color of flesh and no longer showed any signs of poisoning. Leylani knew that the Gelsemium elegans in her had been removed. However, the special itching powder in Lorraine's group was getting more and more serious. Except for Leylani, there was no antidote, therefore they cried in pain. "Ah, it's so itchy! It's itchy and painful. What's going on? Leylani, did you do this? Did you poison us?" Lorraine was in so much pain that she was rolling on the ground like a crocodile. Her thick nails scratched her skin, which was covered with blood marks. Her nails were filled with flesh, which looked shocking and made people terrified. Furthermore, she only cared about the itch and threw the poisonous dagger to the ground. Seeing this, Leylani stepped forward to pick up the dagger. Looking at the sharp dagger stained with poison, she sneered. In the first second, this thing had threatened her, but in the next second, it became a tool for her to threaten others. It was good to use it for her own good. In an instant, she picked up the dagger and pointed it at Lorraine. She shouted word by word, "Bitch, how dare you offend me and hurt me? You even took away my ring. Yulia, tie her to a tree. I'm going to put her to death." "Yes, Miss Leylani." After Yulia finished speaking, she went forward and tied Lorraine up. However, Lorraine's body was filled with brute force and she felt extremely itchy. As such, as soon as Yulia rushed over, she was violently kicked away by her. "Yulia, let me help you." At this time, Rachel, who had been hiding in the dark, suddenly went forward to help Yulia. Seeing that Rachel was helping Leylani, Lorraine was so angry that she wanted to spit on her. "You bitch! How can you help them? Go and report it to Madame Patricia and ask her to avenge us. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer." Rachel stepped forward coldly, picked up a bench, and suddenly smashed it hard on Lorraine's fat belly, making her groan and the corners of her mouth bleed instantly. Rachel glared at her aggressively. "You're the bitch! If you scold me again, I'll cut your mouth. I'm now on Miss Leylani's side, and I'm going to help her deal with you. You'll be punished." Rachel hated Lorraine to death because she not only bullied Leylani but also constantly bullied her. She did not want to be trampled on by Lorraine, and she refused to accept her. She went against her, therefore she was Lorraine's target. Because of her ugly appearance and strong strength, there was no man who liked her. She had to find a beautiful woman in the yard to have a good relationship with. When Rachel was sent there, she took a fancy to Rachel. Unexpectedly, Rachel looked down on her and even bit her to resist her. She naturally bore this in mind and often found an excuse to insult Rachel. Rachel had stayed under the same roof as Lorraine all year round. She had been more or less harassed. She was originally a noble and an official's wife. How could she accept such an insult? Hence, she hated Lorraine to the core. Now that Leylani had knocked down these evil servants, she was the first to rush up to take revenge. She wished she could kill them with her hands. Leylani glanced at Rachel. At the beginning of the conflict, Rachel did not rush up to help her. At that time, Rachel was observing which side wins. If Lorraine had won, she would not have dared to step forward. As soon as Lorraine lost, she rushed out to show her loyalty. Even though she knew what Rachel was doing, she did not dislike her because it was human nature. Rachel had been bullied by Lorraine all year round and had no one to protect her. How could she dare to fight Lorraine alone? If she had stepped out at the beginning, she would have definitely been treated as a thorn in Lorraine's eyes and would end up in a miserable state. In order to protect herself, it was understandable for her to choose this way. At least, the last time by the lotus pond, she stood up and spoke for her, saying that she taught Leylani how to read. She had come to bring the news to her earlier, which showed that Rachel was not a bad person. She was just a smart person who wanted to live. This time, Rachel stepped forward and hit Lorraine hard with a bench. Lorraine could not move at once. Rachel and Yulia quickly tied Lorraine to the tree. Seeing that the leading sheep was tied up, the others did not dare to cause trouble anymore, and could only continue to scratch the itch on their bodies. "Miss Leylani, why are Sylvia and the others so itchy? Could it be that they were poisoned with itch powder? But I did not see you sprinkling the powder on them." Yulia had personally witnessed the development of the powder, therefore she knew the poison very well. Leylani glanced at the mess of clothes on the ground and raised her eyebrows coldly. "Because of their vicious hearts, they destroyed my mother's clothes. This is my mother's punishment to them." Yulia finally understood. It must have been Miss Leylani who had sprinkled the powder on the clothes. Miss Leylani knew that Lorraine and the others would be coming to kill them, therefore they had no time to take her clothes away. It was better to scatter the powder on the clothes and let these evil servants be destroyed, together with the clothes. At this moment, all of Lorraine's people were gone. They were all paralyzed on the ground like roosters that had been defeated. At the same time, they screamed and scratched at the same time. Although Lorraine was tied to a tree, she immediately put the ruby ring in her mouth and threatened Leylani coldly. "Don't try to stab me alive. If you dare to touch me, I'll swallow this ring and you won't get it." Leylani frowned in disgust. She moved the dagger in front of Lorraine's face and said, "If you have the ability, swallow it. If you swallow it, I'll cut you alive and take out the ring." However, such a precious ring would be a blasphemy to the ring if it were to enter Lorraine's stomach. Therefore, it was best to take back the ring as quickly as possible in case it was insulted by a filthy person like Lorraine. However, Lorraine shook her head in disdain. No matter how itchy she was, she gritted her teeth and endured it. Because there was a ring in her mouth, her words were unclear. "If you want me to give you the ring, then take out the antidote. It's very fair to exchange one thing for another." "You dare to say that it's fair to me? You deserve it?" Leylani stared at Lorraine coldly with her deep eyes. "Not to mention that you are in my hands now. Even if you're not in my hands, I could kill you. You're now suffering from strange poison and you're itching all over. If you don't detoxify yourself, you'll die. In addition to this poison, I have a dagger prepared by Madame Patricia for you. I can slash your throat and take out the ring. You good for nothing." Before Lorraine could finish her words, Yulia had already stepped forward and slapped her in the face. "Miss Leylani, her face is so old that my hand hurts." After Yulia finished, she looked at Leylani with grievance. Looking at the embroidered shoes on Yulia's feet, she raised her eyebrows coldly. "You don't have to do it yourself. Don't dirty your hands. Take off your shoes and teach her a lesson. How she sent someone to beat you just now, you can beat her back 10 or even 100 times harder. Beat her hard. If you can't beat her, don't come to see me." After hearing this, Lorraine closed her eyes and shouted, "Leylani, you might as well kill me with one strike. What kind of heroine are you torturing me like this? I'm just a delicate girl. I'm not a heroine. Yulia, beat her up quickly." It was such a good opportunity for Yulia to take revenge. She had to grasp it tightly. As soon as she finished her words, the older female servants on the ground trembled with fear. This Miss Leylani seemed to have changed into another person. She acted like an overlord and even said that she was a delicate little girl. Except for her delicate appearance, she was no longer delicate. Even the fierce Lorraine was no match for her. How could she be a delicate and weak person? Hearing that, Yulia quickly took off her shoes and spat on her palms. She rubbed her hands and walked towards Lorraine angrily. As soon as she walked up, she exerted all her strength and arrogance, lifted her shoes and hit Lorraine's old face hatefully. After a few pats, Yulia took the sole of her shoe and hit Lorraine angrily. It was a good way to relieve her anger. Leylani asked Rachel to bring her a chair. She sat on the chair coldly and began to drink tea slowly, looking calm. She did not want to kill Lorraine at once. She had to torture her slowly and get back at her 10 or even 100 times more what she had done to her. If she killed her just like that, she would not be able to vent her anger. She wanted her to live a life worse than death. Moreover, there were so many people in the mansion who were watching her. Her hands would not be stained with even the slightest bit of blood. There would be plenty of opportunities to completely destroy Lorraine. This time, she was beaten so hard that she screamed. Soon, there were a few blood marks on her face, plus the blood stains she had just scratched. Her face was completely torn. The most important thing was that she was really living a life worse than death. Earlier, she was able to scratch her body with her hands, but now her hands are tied and she could not scratch her body even if she wanted to. She could only resist the urge. However, it was not an ordinary itch. It was like thousands of ants gnawing on her body. She was in so much pain that she could not stand it. After hitting Lorraine for a while, Yulia's hands were sore. Rachel also wanted to take revenge. She quickly took off her shoes and took over Yulia's shift and continued to hit Lorraine with her shoe soles. "I'm going to beat you to death, you old witch. You bullied me, humiliated me, and tortured me. I didn't expect you to have such a day. I really want to beat you to death." Rachel shouted in pain and relief. Now seeing this, Sylvia, Emma, and the others were so scared that they knelt down in front of Leylani and put down their stance to apologize to her. "Miss Leylani, I know I'm in the wrong. Please spare my life. I'm itching. Please give me the antidote, or I'll itch to death." "Miss Leylani, it was all our fault in the past. We didn't want it either. It was all because of Lorraine. If you want to blame someone, blame it on her. Don't blame us. Yes, Miss Leylani is kind and generous. You are not a cruel and merciless person like Lorraine. Please give us the antidote for the sake that we rarely bully you. We beg for your mercy. Miss Leylani, please spare us. In the future, we will definitely serve Miss Leylani. We will put Miss Leylani first. We are all at Miss Leylani's disposal." As soon as Lorraine was in trouble, she heard the most true evaluation of her by her subordinates. She glared at those lackeys with hatred. Not a single one of them spoke up for her, and they all betrayed her when she was down. Leylani cast a playful glance at the servant girls. They were willing to surrender, but she did not dare to accept them. She never accepted anyone who had a conflict with her. These old maids all had a grudge against her. In the past, they had helped Lorraine to deal with her and abused her. If they could betray her today, they could betray her tomorrow. They were lazy, liked to gossip, liked to cheat, and would betray her at any time. She would never put these bombs around her. She had to train a few loyal confidants like Yulia. "If you want to be my subordinate, it depends on whether I accept it or not. I'm not a nobody." Leylani raised her eyebrows coldly. She could not afford to raise such female servants. "Miss Leylani, please take us in. In the future, we will be Miss Leylani's subordinate. We will only work for Miss Leylani. We will never betray you. Please give us the antidote. We will serve you for the rest of our lives." Leylani slowly rolled her eyes and looked at the bright blue sky. "I can accept you, but you have to show some gratitude. Otherwise, how can I know that you are not the Lorraine's people, and pretend to be sincere in trying to get the antidote?" When the old maids heard this, they looked at each other. They did not know how to show their loyalty. At this time, Sylvia and Emma suddenly rushed to the inner courtyard. Soon, they came out with 2 bags. As soon as they ran towards Leylani, they quickly handed over the bags to her and said respectfully, "Miss Leylani, these are the silver and jewelry that Lorraine snatched from your mother, and the jewelry that she gave to us. These are all Madame Giselle's dowry. Lorraine wanted to keep them for her old age. We'll give them to you now. I only hope that you can give us the antidote. Our bodies are too painful and itchy, like ants biting on their bodies. It's heart-wrenching pain. We are going to die from the itch." At this moment, of course, life and appearance were more important. Money was an external possession. Besides, most of the money there was hidden by Lorraine, therefore they did not feel sorry for her. Leylani looked at the 2 bags. As expected, there were 2 bags full of jewelry and some silver pieces. She winked at Yulia. Yulia quickly went forward to put away the bags and lock them in the box in the inner room. "You're sensible. My mother's dowry is returned to its original owner. Yulia, give them the antidote." "Thank you for your kindness, Miss Leylani. We will never forget your kindness." The female servants knelt down and bowed. Leylani gave the antidote to Yulia and Rachel and asked them to give it to the female servants. She took back her mother's dowry with a little itch powder. Leylani touched her chin and could not help but nod at her own intelligence. However, she did not know that there was a person hiding on the opposite cornice. That person stared at her with a pair of enchanting eyes. Soon, all the female servants applied the antidote. After a while, their poison was removed, and their bodies were no longer itchy. At this moment, they breathed a sigh of relief. They no longer dared to be arrogant in front of Leylani. All of them stood in front of Leylani in fear, ready to listen to her orders at any time. At the same time, they secretly admired this bold Miss Leylani. After Leylani gave them the antidote, she began to deal with Lorraine. After all, Lorraine still had her ring in her mouth. Leylani had to take it out from her mouth as soon as possible. At this time, Lorraine was already dying from Rachel's beating. Leylani stepped forward and waved at Rachel. "Rachel, stop hitting her. Keep her alive. She has not spat out my ring yet." "Yes, Miss Leylani." Rachel stepped aside respectfully and stood still. The pair of coquettish eyes on the wall raised with a smile. What ring was so important to her that she had to take it back at all costs? When she saw that everyone's poison had been removed except her, she felt as if she had been abandoned. Her body was itchy and her face was badly beaten. She really wanted to spit out the ring to exchange for the antidote. However, when she thought about it, she would have nothing left to threaten Leylani. After Leylani got back her ring, would she give her the antidote and keep her alive? In order to save her life, she endured the heart-wrenching pain of being bitten by ants. She bit the ring tightly and did not let it go from her mouth. "If you want the ring, give me the antidote to exchange for it. After you detoxify me, I will give you the ring." "How dare you bargain with me? Yulia, Lorraine had offended me, smashed my courtyard, destroyed my clothes, and slashed me with a poisonous dagger. How do you think I should punish her?" Leylani shook the dagger in her hand, and the dagger shone under the sun. Yulia rolled her eyes and said, "Since Lorraine slashed Miss Leylani should also cut her. We should return the favor back tenfolds to her." "No!" Lorraine cried out in horror. The blade was smeared with Gelsemium elegans. She would die if she was poisoned. She did not know why Leylani was fine after she was poisoned, as she did not have the antidote. She would die if she was poisoned. "Okay, I'll slash her right away. Ruin her face first." "What is there to ruin with that old face of hers? She already looks like she's disfigured. However, Miss Leylani, you should ruin her face to your heart's content. Make her so hideous that she would not even dare to meet others. Let's see if she dares to bully the weak and rob you of your money again." Leylani nodded and stepped forward. She waved her knife coldly and slashed Lorraine's face. As soon as she did, Lorraine was so scared that she screamed. Not caring whether she was screaming or not, Leylani's eyes were extremely cold as she wrote one word on Lorraine's face: "Bitch!" As soon as she made a move, the older female servants beside her trembled with fear and kept quiet. Miss Leylani looked soft on the outside, but her means were too cruel. They could not afford to offend her. Therefore, they would not dare to provoke her again. "Why aren't you spitting out the ring? If you don't spit it out, I'll continue to cut." Leylani stared coldly at Lorraine. Lorraine's face was covered with black blood and her lips were red and purple. She had been poisoned by the Gelsemium elegans. She shivered with fear, but she still gritted her teeth and refused to let go. At this moment, Leylani suddenly stepped forward, pointed the dagger at Lorraine's eyes, and said with threatening eyes, "If you don't spit it out, I will immediately dig out your eyeballs." Don't hurt my eyes. I'll spit it out. I'll spit it out right now." Thinking that her eyes were about to be destroyed, Lorraine was so frightened that she no longer dared to be stubborn. She quickly spat out the ring. She could bear it when Leylani slashed her face. Her face was already originally ugly, but if Leylani destroyed her eyes, she would not agree. Without her eyes, how could she look at this beautiful world? Without her eyes, she would become a good-for-nothing. When she thought of the pain from her eyes, she shuddered and did not dare to try. As soon as the ring was spat out, Yulia quickly picked it up and took it to wash. When she washed the ring more than 10 times and it was extremely clean, she handed the ring to Leylani. "Miss Leylani, why haven't I seen this ring before? It's so beautiful. Where did you get it?" Yulia looked confused. Leylani did not answer. She just took back the ring and played with it in her hand. The bright light of the ring reflected in the beautiful phoenix eyes of the man by the wall. He was stunned. How could she have this ring? He had just lost an identical one. Had it been picked up by her? Last time when she fooled him about his fortune, he only gave her $100. His ring happened to be lost on that day. Could it be that this girl had stolen it from him? At the thought of this, a hint of coldness appeared in his smiling phoenix eyes. Since Leylani had taken back the ring, she naturally did not want to torture Lorraine anymore. Lorraine had been poisoned and would die soon. She could not die in the moon house. If she had to die, she had to die in Patricia's frost garden. Leylani time-traveled there and set a rule for herself. That is, in the eyes of others, her hands would not be stained with the slightest blood. If no one saw it, it would be a different story. Lorraine had already bullied her for 10 years. Now she even wanted to kill her. Leylani was not someone who could be bullied by others. It was Lorraine's own fault for ending up like this. If she did not kill Lorraine today, Lorraine would kill her and ask Madame Patricia for credit. In order to save her life, she had to take Lorraine down. Otherwise, if she allowed her to stay in the yard, it would be a great hidden danger sooner or later. She might not even know how she would die. In this world where the strong preyed on the weak, she had to protect herself. After making up her mind, Leylani handed the antidote to Yulia. Give the antidote to Lorraine. Miss Leylani, Lorraine wanted to kill you, but you still want to give her the antidote? Yulia looked puzzled. She raised her eyebrows arrogantly and said, I've always been kind, and I can't bear to see people suffer. Since I'm the one who made the itchy powder, I'll remove it for her. After that, it's none of my business whether she is dead or alive. The gelsemium elegans she has on her body was from Madame Patricia. If she wants to live, she should go and beg her. It has nothing to do with me. The implication was that the poison made by Leylani had been removed. However, if Lorraine died accidentally, it would be Madame Patricia's fault. Anyway, Lorraine had been poisoned by the gelsemium elegan. If there was no antidote, she would die sooner or later. She did not mind giving her the itchy powder antidote. She kicked Lorraine like a rubber ball to Madame Patricia, which was a test of Madame Patricia's feelings for her. If Madame Patricia really cared about her, she would naturally give her the antidote. If Madame Patricia thought that this chess piece was useless and wanted to abandon her, then whether she was dead or alive had nothing to do with Leylani. Sylvia, Emma, carry Lorraine to the frost garden and leave her to Madame Patricia. Madame Millington had already ordered Madame Patricia to punish this servant. This servant committed a crime and robbed my mother of her dowry. She even stabbed me with a poisonous dagger. She also dared to say that it was Madame Patricia who ordered her to do this. I don't think that Madame Patricia would do such a bad thing. Tell Madame Patricia that I have already punished Lorraine for her, so she won't have to worry about it. She just needs to clean up the mess. Yulia, Rachel, follow them. She obviously meant to supervise the group of old maids. Hearing this, Sylvia looked at her with some doubts. Miss Leylani, how should we be punished? Leylani narrowed her eyes lazily. Of course, you two will be punished by Madame Patricia with Lorraine. Hearing this, Sylvia's body suddenly softened. Miss Leylani, didn't you just say that as long as we are sincere, you are willing to take us in? We have returned Madame Giselle's dowry to you. Don't you want us anymore? She lazily rolled up the hair on her chest and said softly, What you have returned is my mother's dowry, which means that you are belonging the items to its original owner. I don't want your money, so you don't have to show your loyalty. I also want to take you in, but I'm small and only have 2 months' worth of silver. How can I support you? You can't eat or wear well with me, so you will only suffer. I don't want to get you into trouble with your retirement money. Her small temple could not afford these cunning and scheming servants. You are obviously being ungrateful. Sylvia pointed at Leylani angrily. If she had known this would happen, she would not have taken out the pile of dowry. Now they had no dowry and could not be taken in. She really regretted what she had done earlier. Leylani's eyes were cold, showing a breathtaking light. If you want me to take you in, it's possible. You can work in the outer court. Every month, I will take out dozens of copper coins. I would starve myself, but give you enough food to eat. Sylvia snorted coldly. Well said. It's just dozens of copper coins. So many people can't even have a full meal. What's the point of that? It seemed that this good-for-nothing young lady was not worth following. She could only earn 2 taels of silver a month. Even she could not support herself. They would have no future and a way out if they followed her. It was better to go back to Madame Patricia and ask her to arrange a job for them. It was better than staying here. Thinking of this, Sylvia ordered the other older female servants coldly, "You all carry Lorraine to Madame Patricia's courtyard." Leylani glanced at them coldly and ordered Yulia, "Remember to convey my words to Madame Patricia. I have a bottle of itching powder. If anyone dares to disobey you, you can spread it on them." Leylani gave the powder to Yulia in case Sylvia and Emma turned against Yulia and disobeyed her. Now Yulia had the powder in her hands. Although Sylvia and Emma were not convinced, they did not dare to do anything. "I understand, Miss Leylani." Yulia obeyed and smiled happily. When everyone left, the whole courtyard instantly quieted down. Only the soft chirping of cicadas could be heard from the trees. After driving these old maids away, Leylani was ready to move to the inner courtyard. The inner courtyard had been occupied by Lorraine for 10 years. She wanted to take it back. The inner courtyard was much newer than the outer courtyard. It was equipped with all kinds of furniture. Unlike the outer courtyard where it would leak in the winter, it was a good place to live. When she was moving the suitcase, she suddenly found that her right hand was hit by a stone, which made her scream in pain. "Who is it?" Leylani screamed and looked around with sharp eyes. Owen, dressed in a white robe, sat on the top of the wall gracefully with a long grass in his mouth. His beautiful eyes stared at her with a faint smile. At this moment, Leylani looked around her sharply. When she was unprepared, he picked up a stone with his slender hand and hit her on the back. "Who the hell are you? How dare you attack me? If I catch you, I'll skin you alive," Leylani said coldly, with a trace of coldness in her eyes. He dared to threaten her. This young lady was bold and dark-hearted. Earlier, he had witnessed her evil intention of drugging and beating people. He immediately understood that this woman could not be provoked by ordinary people. After looking around the yard several times, she did not see the person who threw stones. Her eyes suddenly narrowed sharply. This person liked to hit people in the dark with stones. Was it the person who hit Theodore last time? He helped her last time and beat Theodore. This time he dared to make fun of her. If she caught him, she would not let him go easily. Owen could clearly see the coldness in her eyes. He smiled leisurely, and a smile of interest appeared on his red lips. This woman had a face as beautiful as a fairy, but her heart was darker than coal. Those old maids were so powerful, but they were no match for her. It seemed that he had underestimated her last time and thought that she would be bullied by Mr. Theodore. Therefore, he helped her secretly. Come to think of it, he had done something unnecessary last time. The itchy powder she invented was so powerful that he did not dare to provoke her. What an interesting woman. Then he flicked the 2 stones away with his fingers and hit Leylani's head one after the other. Fortunately, he did not exert too much strength, otherwise Leylani would have bled. However, no matter how hard she tried, she still felt a dull pain in her head. She was really angry at this moment. A dark abyss-like chill rose on her delicate face. Then she rolled her eyes and pretended not to look for that person anymore. Instead, she moved the boxes into the house. Owen was stunned. This girl was hiding in the house. She was really a smart coward. His charming long and narrow eyes flashed, and there was a look of destruction in them. It was enchanting and captivating. Just when he was thinking about how to draw the young lady out, suddenly, the belt on his back was pulled by someone. At the critical moment, his whole body was dragged down coldly and fell straight on the hard stone. "Ouch! It hurts." Owen frowned and fell heavily on the stone, which made him scream in pain. He turned around and wanted to see who had pulled him down. Looking back, he saw a cold face staring at him coldly. It turned out to be Leylani. She hid behind him without anyone noticing and pulled him down. He had inner energy. Usually, as long as someone approached him, he would immediately find out. Maybe he had underestimated his enemy and was cheated by this young lady. He thought that she had entered the house. In fact, She had gone from the backyard to the wall to drag him down. What a smart woman. It's you. As soon as she saw him clearly, she recognized him. He was the evildoer in red who had counted the money the last time. He was even more beautiful than a woman. He did not wear red today, but wore a white crescent robe. The sleeves were embroidered with thin golden lines, and there were countless golden lines shining in the sun. He looked elegant and noble. Unfortunately, she was not interested in a man who dared to hit her with stones. She pulled Owen's belt with her right hand and pulled him to the side. She said coldly, "Tell me, why did you hide in my house and hit me with stones?" Owen's beautiful phoenix eyes curved into a faint smile, and a dark and cold look appeared in his eyes. This woman is so interesting. What a heartless little beauty. Last time you cheated me of my money, and I even helped you teach your young master a lesson. How could you do this to me? How could you bear it? Owen was not angry. He looked at Leylani with evil eyes, allowing him to grab his belt. It was just a belt. He did not believe that she had the nerve to take off his clothes. Leylani took a step forward and stared at him coldly. The prince? Could it be that this evildoer was a member of the royal family? You call yourself a prince. Do you know the owner of this ring? After saying that, she showed the ring in her hand and flashed in front of Owen. Before Owen could see it clearly, she put it away. Coincidentally, I lost a ring a few days ago. It's exactly the same as this one. I wanted to ask you where you got it from. Did you steal it from me that day? I stole yours? I, Leylani, disdain to steal people's things. Besides, this is not a treasure. I don't take it seriously. She looked at Owen carefully and found that he was coquettish and looked like a woman. He did not match the man who had taken her by force. That man was mysterious, arrogant, and had a strong kingly aura in his eyes. He looked arrogant and domineering. His eyes were more beautiful than that of Owen's. His eyes were shining with a bright and beautiful aura, and his temperament was arrogant and indifferent. She was sure that he and Owen were not the same person. Owen patted his butt and stood up. He stared at Leylani with his beautiful eyes and said, "If you don't care, why did you threaten that slave just now? It's just a ring. I have plenty of it. If you like it, I'll give it to you." Humph! Leylani glanced at him disdainfully. She disdained to take his things. However, this was not his at all, therefore she would not return it to him. However, his tone did not sound like a lie. Did he have the same ring as that man? That man called himself a prince. They should also be of the Lawrence family and a member of the royal family. Now that she had met him, she could find that man through him. Thinking of this, she sneered and pulled his belt to threaten him. She looked like a messenger from hell. "Tell me, who else has such a ring except you?" Could it be that she did not believe that this ring belonged to him? Being threatened by her, Owen felt cold in his heart, and his whole body shuddered under her gaze. He suddenly regretted that he had been caught by her. This girl was obviously a goblin. There is only one of this ring in the world, and only I have it. Except me, no one else has it. Owen rolled his eyes and decided to lie to this young lady. If this ring did not belong to him, it belonged to the other princes or princesses. There were more than 20 princes and princesses in the Jomari kingdom. There were a large number of them in all ages. Every time they were born, the emperor would give them such a ring. He even made a mark on the ring to distinguish them. This ring was given to the princes and princesses by the emperor. It was a symbol of the royal status of the Jomari kingdom. It was very important to the princes and princesses. If it had not been stolen, no one would dare to abandon it. Where did she get this ring? Which prince would be willing to give such a valuable ring to her? With strong doubts, Owen looked at Leylani from head to toe. All the other women were obsessed with him and flattered him, but she kept a distance from him. This obvious indifference and alienation made him sad. "There's only one in the world?" Leylani raised her eyebrows in disbelief and then clenched the ring. "You said earlier that you dropped this ring. I have no reason to believe you. What I picked up is mine. I'll keep it." It was reasonable for her to occupy others' things without feeling embarrassed. This girl's heart was too evil. "Since you picked it up, it's yours? Is there no law in this world?" Owen sneered and was not in a hurry to get the ring back. "What law? In my world, I am the law. If you are not convinced, if you have the ability, you can take it from me yourself." Leylani raised her beautiful eyebrows at Owen provocatively, and there was a faint brilliance flashing on her face, which made Owen slightly stunned. It turned out that the ring belonged to Owen. He had dropped it, or the mysterious man had stolen it. In the end, the mysterious man had used it as a love token for her. He had the nerve to use the ring as a token and deceive her. He also said that he would marry her. He was a heinous liar. She was even expecting him to propose to her, but the result was fake. There were so many heartless men in the world. Even if he did not steal her heart, he had stolen her body. He had done her wrong. He had stolen her body, but did not come to take responsibility. He was a liar who liked to brag. Maybe he used this as an excuse to deceive many women. She was just one of the unlucky ones. When she found him, she would definitely peel off his skin and pull out his tendons. Owen looked at Leylani and did not go forward to grab the ring. "Since you have picked it up, I will give it to you. However, I need you to give me a kiss. How about that? How dare you? I really want to beat you to a pulp. How dare you tease me? I'm not easy to deal with." Seeing that his handsome face was approaching her without warning, she suddenly clenched her fist and hit his handsome face with her fist. Owen thought that Leylani would not make a move, but she did. She punched him hard in the face, which made his face full of shock, and he stared at Leylani in a daze. Just when Leylani thought he was going to fall into a rage, he smiled wickedly. Interesting. I've never met a woman like you. I'm Owen, the 7th prince of the Jamari kingdom. May I know your name?" "I'm Leylani Millington." "So you're my eldest brother's future wife. Rumor has it that you're a weak and cowardly woman, and that you are a good-for-nothing." Why did he not see this? He was obviously a cold-faced evil demon. How could she be weak and cowardly? The word cowardly had nothing to do with her at all. They even said that she was a good-for-nothing who was easily bullied by others. It's good enough that she did not bully others. It seemed that the rumors could not be trusted. If his elder brother knew that the crown princess he hated was so smart and calm, he would definitely regret and would curse in front of them every day. Leylani's lips curled up coldly and her eyes were shining. "So you're the younger brother of that inhuman crown prince. It's said that you look like a woman and a playboy. Today I finally see it." This time, Owen was angry. His eyes were full of majestic aura. "What did you see today? Who said that I'm a playboy? Tell them that I only like women. I'm not a playboy. I'm not a playboy at all." The rumors were too hateful. They said that he was a playboy. He wanted to catch the person who spread the rumors. If it was a man, he would slap him, and if it was a woman, he would sell her to the brothel. The corners of her lips curled into a smile. "I saw it today, as expected." "What?" Owen approached her and listened to her judgment nervously, hoping to hear her say something like he was very manly. "Sure enough, you look like a playboy," Leylani said with a smile. "You?" Owen was so angry that he hit the osmanthus tree with his palm, which almost uprooted the roots of the osmanthus tree. All the osmanthus on the tree scattered and gently fell to the ground like golden cotton, scattering all over their bodies, which looked quite hazy and beautiful. As the wind blew gently, the fragrance of osmanthus was refreshing and captivating. Owen looked at the falling rain of flowers and was slightly stunned. If he had not heard wrongly, he had actually been mocked by this woman. Which woman in the world would not be submissive upon seeing him? Only she had the guts to be so bold. Who gave her the courage? However, no matter how badly she insulted him, he was not angry. Instead, he found her interesting and wanted to quarrel with her. Seeing that Owen had knocked the osmanthus tree in the yard to the side, her eyes turned cold. She looked at the osmanthus tree with distress and suddenly pulled his belt tightly. With this pull, Owen was pulled around several times in the same place, making him dizzy. When he was done turning, he suddenly found that his belt was already in Leylani's hands, and his clothes were all scattered, hanging loose on his body, like hanging a big gorgeous sack. The jade pendant and coin bag on his belt were also held in Leylani's hands. Leylani carefully played with the jade pendants, rubbed the bulging coin bag, and there was a trace of calculation in her eyes. "As the 7th prince, how dare you come to my bedroom to peep? You even used a stone to hit me a few times. My delicate body is precious. One hit is 100 taels of silver. If you hand over this bag of silver, I may consider not to report you." Owen could not help but frown. What a greedy young lady. 100 taels of silver for one hit. He did not use any strength at all. She's extorting money. Initially, she did not want Owen's money, but he hid in the dark and hit her. Last time, she wanted to return the 100 taels of silver to him, but now it seemed that it was unnecessary. The stones she had suffered earlier were his compensation for her. "I can give you the silver," Owen said with an evil smile. It was obvious that he had not finished his words. Leylani did not care if he finished his words or not, but only heard this half sentence. She quickly untied the bag of silver and threw the jade belt to him. As soon as Owen held the jade belt, his beautiful eyes gave a coquettish smile. "As long as you are willing to be my concubine, I promise to give you this bag of silver. No, not only this bag, but all of my silver is yours." Leylani narrowed her eyes lazily. The sunlight shone on her fair face, making her look very beautiful. Owen thought that since the crown prince looked down on her so much, he was willing to take her as his concubine. She should be very grateful and change her attitude toward him. This was a good thing that all the women in the world dreamed of. However, she narrowed her eyes in disdain, raised her head proudly, and said with a poker face, "I'm sorry. You promised to give me the silver. As for being your concubine, I don't want to. You can find other women. There are so many women in the world, and I believe there are a lot of women better than me. I never wanted to be someone else's vassal." I, Leylani, never thought of being someone else's vassal. Owen had never heard a woman say something like that. The woman in front of him was too strange. Every woman in the world wanted to marry a good man and live a good life by relying on power, but she refused him. She did not even want to be Seventh Prince's concubine. He was the most beloved prince of Jomari Kingdom. He did not mind that she was engaged to the crown prince, but she disdained him. It was getting more and more interesting. In order to prevent Owen from bothering her again, Leylani took the silver and coldly ordered him to leave. "The matter has been settled. Please leave as soon as possible to avoid being discovered and damaging my reputation." "No, I won't leave until you kiss me." Owen stepped forward and blinked his evil peach blossom eyes at Leylani. It would be too great of a loss for him if he left without his money and a kiss. Her black phoenix eyes suddenly gave a gentle smile. The smile did not reach the bottom of her eyes, but there were unfathomable schemes and shrewdness in her eyes. Suddenly, she walked to Owen with a smile, and a shiny medicine bottle appeared in her hand. "Are you leaving or not? Do you want to have a try?" As soon as he saw the itchy powder that made the old women roll on the ground, Owen was so scared that he took a step back. His heart was beating fast. This little demon scared him. He touched his heart and found that his heart was still there. Fortunately, he was not poisoned. It seemed that this girl was good at using poison. She was really vicious, which made his eyelids twitch. Suddenly, he turned around and flew to the top of the wall. His robe was blown up by the wind, and his jade belt flew in the air like a fairy. There was a meaningful smile in his eyes. He said to Leylani, "Young lady, see you later." Then he jumped over the wall and flew away. Leylani patted her chest in shock. Fortunately, he left fast, otherwise, if he continued to tease her, she might fight with him. This guy could sneak into her house without anyone noticing, which meant that he was highly skilled in martial arts. With such a high level of martial arts, he actually allowed her to talk nonsense. It seemed that he deliberately let her go. If she really offended him, she was afraid that she could not bear his anger. Therefore, it was better to ask him to leave as soon as possible. At the Frost Garden, looking at the bruised Lorraine lying on the stretcher and the old maids whose bodies were covered with blood stains, Madame Patricia stiffened. Suddenly, she slammed the tea bowl in her hand on the ground, and the tea bowl was smashed into countless pieces. Countless blue and white porcelain flew in all directions, which frightened everyone. "How dare Leylani hurt Lorraine like this? She does not take me seriously at all." Madame Patricia was so angry that her whole body was trembling, and her beautiful eyes were full of resentment. She gritted her teeth, and her fair fingers, which were holding the edge of the table, were trembling. Lorraine's body was poisoned, and the poison spread deeper and deeper. Her face was written with the words "bastard," and there were terrible scratches on her body. She looked extremely ugly. Madame Patricia was afraid that she would scare Nicole and Amber, therefore she immediately asked people to keep her daughters in the house and not to let them come out. "Madame Patricia, I'm useless. It's all Leylani's fault for being so cunning. I don't know where she got the itch powder. She sprinkled it on our bodies. Everyone was attacked by her. We felt itchy all over, and it felt very painful. We even wanted to hit ourselves to the wall and die on the spot." Sylvia stepped forward and answered for Lorraine. Now that Lorraine was almost dying, she did not even have the strength to say a word. Madame Patricia slammed her fair and thin hands on the table, and the blue veins on her hands stood out. "You're all useless trash. How dare you complain in front of me? You can't even deal with a piece of trash. How can you face me? You all deserved it. It's a shame that 8 old maids can't beat a little girl. How dare you complain?" "Yes, Madame Patricia, you're right, but that girl seems to have changed into another person. She is strange and has an evil spirit. She also said that she is a cat demon. She has 9 lives. We can't kill her. I think that she is really extremely powerful because she is really the cat demon." As she spoke, she widened her eyes in horror. Madame Patricia rolled her phoenix-like eyes and could not help being shocked. "Did she really say that?" "Madame Patricia, it's true." A cold light burst out of Madame Patricia's eyes. Leylani had become so powerful that it looked like she had been transformed by a monster. If she was really the incarnation of the cat demon, she had to ask Priest Morgan from the St. Yost Church to teach her a lesson. She did not believe that the priest could not deal with the monster. "What else did she say?" Madame Patricia glanced at Lorraine with disdain and raised her eyebrows unhappily. Sylvia was stunned for a moment. She did not dare to say anything at first, but when she thought of the itchy powder in Yulia's hand outside the door, she hurriedly said, "She said that it was Madame Millington who ordered Madame Patricia to punish Lorraine. Lorraine committed a crime and took away her dowry. She even stabbed her with a poisonous dagger. She even pretended to be ordered by Madame Patricia. She said that she did not believe that it was Madame Patricia who did it. She has already punished Lorraine for Madame Patricia. Madame Patricia, you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is to clean up the mess for her." "What a smart girl. How dare she push the blame to me? Did you say that she was stabbed by a poisonous dagger?" Madame Patricia's eyes suddenly widened when she heard this. The corners of her mouth lifted proudly as she looked at Sylvia expectantly. Before Sylvia could speak, Lorraine was able to catch her breath. "Yes, it was me who had stabbed her arm. I saw with my own eyes that her arm had turned black. She was also poisoned. Madame Patricia, don't worry. She won't be able to live much longer. I only hope that Madame Patricia will bestow me with the antidote to the Gelsemium elegans for my loyalty. I will never forget Madame Patricia's kindness and will forever remember it." How could Lothain have known that Leylani had already applied the antidote on her arm during the chaos? The poison in her hand had long been removed. She thought that Leylani had also been poisoned like her, and her eyes were filled with relief. Madame Patricia looked down at Lorraine with a sneer on her face. This chess piece was useless right then. Even if she was saved, the scars all over her body and the words "bastard" on her face would scare others. How could she use such a person? Don't dirty her eyes. She thought so in her heart, but what she said was different. "Since you work for me, I will save you. But it's not easy to make the antidote. Why don't you go to the countryside and wait? When Amber comes out with the antidote, I will ask someone to send it to you right away." "But Madame Patricia, if I don't take the antidote for the Gelsemium elegans within 2 hours, I'll die from it. It's been an hour. I'm afraid I can't wait for the antidote." When Lorraine heard this, her eyes widened in pain and fear. She faintly felt that Madame Patricia would not save her. She saw the hypocrisy and viciousness in Madame Patricia's eyes. "There's nothing to worry about. Amber needs time to prepare the antidote. You've done a great job in stabbing Leylani. Penny, reward Lorraine with 20 taels of silver. Sammy, go with Sylvia and Emma to carry Lorraine to another house. You should be fast. If you are late, we may not be able to save Lorraine. At the same time, I will urge Amber to make the antidote immediately. Lorraine should not die in her yard. She should not dirty her territory." Sylvia and Emma were stunned for a moment, then suddenly knelt down and asked Madame Patricia, "Madame Patricia, shall we stay in the other house? Or should we come back with Sammy after Lorraine has recovered?" Madame Patricia rolled her eyes, and the coldness in her eyes was obvious. She had just heard from Yulia that these old maids had betrayed Lorraine when they were poisoned with the itchy powder. They had tried to please Leylani and wanted to work for her. She would not accept such slaves who sold their masters for glory. These slaves liked to cheat and play tricks, therefore she would not use them. Moreover, who knew if there were Leylani's people among them? She did not trust them at all. It was better to send them away as soon as possible. In order to shut this group of old maids' mouths, she winked at Penny and said to Sylvia and the others in a dilemma, "My courtyard is not short of manpower for the time being. You can stay in the other house for a while first. If we are short of manpower, I will call you back. Penny, give each of them 10 taels of silver, and then hire a doctor to treat them. You must cure their injuries." Hearing Madame Patricia's words, the hearts of Sylvia and the others suddenly sank. They worked hard to help Madame Patricia, but they were abandoned in the end. What could 10 taels of silver do? It was not enough to cure their injuries. Lorraine was even more miserable. She had been poisoned by the Gelsemium elegans. When Amber developed the antidote, she would probably be dead. It was obvious that Madame Patricia had given up on them, but they were the servants. What could they say? They could only leave with resentment with Lorraine. At this time, they really regretted bullying Miss Leylani with Lorraine. Seeing how smart Yulia and Rachel were, they knew that Miss Leylani was good to them. With Miss Leylani's protection, they lived much better than them. Rachel, in particular, was originally with them, therefore she should have ended up like them. However, she secretly communicated with Miss Leylani and finally succeeded in staying in the moon house. It seemed that they had to keep a distance from each other in the future so that they could meet again in the future. After the old maids were sent away, the frost garden instantly quieted down. Nicole walked out of the room. Her every move was gentle, showing her noble demeanor as a daughter from an aristocratic family. She looked outside calmly and asked Madame Patricia, "Mom, did Lorraine really stab that girl?" Madame Patricia proudly raised the corners of her mouth and smiled excitedly. "It must be true. After being poisoned by your Gelsemium elegans, she will definitely die this time. Without the antidote, even the gods can't save her. But didn't she call herself a cat demon? I'm afraid this matter won't go so smoothly. Why don't we send someone to take a look and keep an eye on her?" Nicole was extremely beautiful as the peach blossoms by the lake. Unfortunately, her expression was very vicious and her heart was very ugly. Madame Patricia sneered disdainfully. "Do you really believe in those lies? What cat demon? I have not seen any demons or ghosts in most of my life. It's just superstition. Even if she has 9 lives, she will die if she gets poisoned by the Gelsemium elegans. But you are right. I should send someone to keep an eye on her." After that, she looked at Isia, who was standing outside, and ordered lightly, "Isia, Miss Leylani is injured. Go and send her some ointment. By the way, give her some pastries from Madame Millington, and let her taste the osmanthus cake made by Madame Millington's kitchen." Isia looked at the osmanthus cake on the table and froze for a moment. It was not a gift from Madame Millington. It was obvious that Nicole had brought it out from the inner room earlier. It was said that Amber had added something to it and had specially made it for Miss Leylani. She was quick-witted and knew what Madame Patricia meant. Madame Patricia was afraid that Lorraine did not manage to stab Miss Leylani successfully. Therefore, she made some preparations. Miss Amber was good at making poison. There must be something in the osmanthus cake. It was her honor to do things for Madame Patricia. Thanks to Penny and Sammy, she had the opportunity to do things for Madame Patricia. She must seize the opportunity to get on Madame Patricia's side. Therefore, she agreed flatteringly, "Yes, Madame Patricia, wait for my good news. When you get there, stay there first. You can say that you are the maid given to her by Madame Millington. Madame Millington gave you this maid personally. If she dares to refuse eating the osmanthus cake, Madame Millington will definitely not like her anymore. She likes to please Madame Millington so much, therefore she will definitely eat it. Madame Patricia smiled faintly. Who knew how long Leylani could live? If Aisha went, she would probably only be able to collect her corpse. Okay, I will obey your orders. As soon as Aisha left, Nicole held the teacup and smiled faintly. Mom, is it a good idea to let Madame Millington be the scapegoat? If Madame Millington finds out, she will definitely be angry. How would she eat it if we did not say that it's from Madame Millington? I'm afraid she won't be able to die, so I have to prepare for it. Even if she didn't die from the poison, she would still be poisoned by the bane poison in the osmanthus cake. In short, she will die. That's true. Luckily, Aisha is in the outer court and has not gone out with us. She would definitely not be able to recognize her. Once she dies, no one would be able to prove anything. Madame Patricia patted Nicole's hand and looked at her proudly. Nicole, you're a true heir to your mother. But don't worry about these things in the future. If someone blocks your way, I will stand up for you. You will have a bright future. Don't let these good-for-nothings dirty your hands. In the future, you'll need to rise to the heavens. I've worked hard to groom you because I hope that you'll enter into the royal family. How can they compare with you? You're a fairy, and your face alone has surpassed everyone else's. What you need to do now is to cultivate your character and build a good reputation. At that time, even if you don't match the crown prince, you'll be worthy to marry other royal family members. As long as you're related to the royal family, you'll enjoy endless glory and wealth in your life. Our Millington family will also go up a level. A smile flashed across Nicole's eyes, and at the same time she said with resentment, No matter how beautiful I am, how good my character is, no matter how many poems and books I read, so what? I am no match for others. Leylani can become the future crown prince's wife just because she is the daughter of the first wife. She is as good for nothing as me. When I think that she gets married to a better husband than me, I hate her. My dear daughter, she's about to die. Why do you still hate her? You don't have to be angry with a dead person. Take it easy. Once she dies, the position of the crown prince's wife will be in your hands. When the crown prince ascends the throne, you will be the empress of the world and become the most powerful woman in the world. At that time, your mother will also become the most dignified mother-in-law in the capital city. In the whole Jamari kingdom, no woman could be compared with you in appearance, talent, background, and temperament. You must cling to the crown prince and wait for this day for your mother. Nicole thought about it for a moment and was a little worried. The confidence in her eyes was reduced by half. But mother, didn't Big Brother hear from the palace that the crown prince is going to marry the princess of the Conlico kingdom? If he marries the princess, then the crown prince's wife position will be lost for me. Speaking of this, Nicole's fingers dug into the wooden crack on the table. Madame Patricia rolled her eyes and sneered. It's just a rumor. Who knows if it's true? Your father is the general of the Jamari kingdom. In order to win her over, the emperor will definitely consider marriage. You're my pride and the most beautiful and talented woman in the Jamari kingdom. Even if he did not match you to the crown prince, he would match you with the most favored seventh prince. If not the seventh prince, he would match you to Prince Joman, Samuel Lawrence. They are all outstanding men in the Jamari kingdom. All of them are extremely handsome and are the most desirable men in the world. In addition to them, there is also Prince Louis,